Hey guys, we are live. So for those listening at home, welcome to the Dungeon Musings YouTube channel. My name is Kevin Madison, and I actually won't be your dungeon master today. Today we are. I'm going to be taking a step from behind the screen and ceding control of the table to my good buddy Arlen Walker. And Arlen is going to be running us through a session of Trudvang Chronicles by Riotminds. And Arlen, I will turn it over to you to go ahead and take it from here.
Yeah, so Trudvang Chronicles is an English translation of a Swedish RPG. Riotminds is a company from Sweden, and it has a whole history with, I think the Swedish, the kind of original game where it started is called Drakar och Demoner. But there's a whole, if you're a Swedish gamer, apparently you played Drakar och Demoner instead of D&D back in like the 80s and 90s. So anyway, Trudvang is pretty cool. It has a whole specific system and a whole world that has it's got a lot of influences from Norse and Celtic mythology, from the history of the Nordic peoples and of settlement of Iceland and stuff like that. And the art is gorgeous in the books. Unfortunately, you need 3 of them to be able to actually run it, because you can't really. So the Game Master's Guide has rules that you need to actually run it. It's not like something like some other games where you could run it just off of the player's handbook. But so everybody has a character, and the character sheet for Roll20 is actually pretty good, with 1 or 2 exceptions. So there's the different tabs across the top. Don't worry about the equipment tab. I haven't given you guys any extra equipment other than basically what you need for combat stuff.
Okay.
So Sven, I think Sinister Sven is probably what people who don't like you so much call you. I can't imagine anybody going by Sinister to their friends that often. But.
He's not super edgelord.
Right.
No, call me Sinister Sven.
Unless you put a Mister in.
Right.
So on the first page, the character tab of the character sheet, we can see character name, their race. There are a number of different groups of humans in the world of Trudvang. Also elves, dwarves, half trolls, and full trolls, but you can't play as a full troll. Half elves and dwarf trolls. So we have 2 Stormlander humans. That's Sinister Sven and Aemond. We have Lokar the dwarf, and Dada, who is a Dyfir, which is a half-elf whose elven parent was one of the high elves as opposed to the wood elves. Every character is assumed to, if not necessarily be particularly devout, have some measure of devotion to a religion. And then there's all the standard, height, weight, gender, weapon hand. Sinister Sven gets his name because he is left-handed, as I believe is Dada. From the, I guess that's kind of a weird thing because Trudvang doesn't have a lot of Latin influences, and that's from Latin. But who knows? Let me take that as a segue into I am almost certainly going to get things wrong about the lore, and perhaps even about the rules. I think we are all experienced enough with playing new games with dense settings that we're not too worried about that as players. I'd hope that it doesn't bother you as a viewer. That's kind of my thing. Then there are also the essentially attributes. Attributes work a little differently in this system. They mostly, one of the big things that they do is they determine how easy it is for a character to learn a certain skill. So for instance, having a high charisma attribute, which Lokar, our bard, has, makes it easier for him to be good at the entertainment and tradesman skills.
Okay.
The idea being that it's less points for him to get good at bard stuff. There's some other bonuses. Aemond, our warrior, has a very high strength, which gives him bonus damage on every hit. There's some stuff like that. So down at the bottom, you can see a couple of things. Max movement is just the maximum amount in meters that you can move per turn. It costs you. So the way that the combat works is interesting because you have a certain pool of points that you allocate to things. So it costs you points to move unless you have certain skills that allow you to get a certain amount of movement for free. Max movement is just the maximum you can go in a given round, no matter how many points you spend. Persistence in the wild refers to basically how long you can survive from fully geared up to absolutely destitute in the wild. And for most characters, that's 10 days. They can carry essentially 10 days worth of stuff before they are a starving wreck in the wilds. Natural healing is how many body points you get back per day. Body points are your hit points. And there are modifiers to all of your skills based on losing body points. So if you're wounded, you might get like a -3 up to I think -7 is the highest penalty, but -7 on a skill is on a d20 is not great. Fear modifier, base initiative, and damage modifier. Damage modifier is I think the only one anyone has, which is Aemon's high strength does that. Now let's move over to the skills tab. So this is where essentially the meat of the game is. So the core mechanic of Trudvang Chronicles is D20 rolls trying to roll under a certain skill value. The skill value is calculated based on the level of your broad skill, which is ranked from 1 to 10, the number of disciplines that you have, which is ranked from 1 to 5, and then twice the value of the specialties you have, which are also ranked from 1 to 5. Which is a little complicated. Luckily, Roll20 calculates all that automatically for us as long as you hit the right roll button.
Well, it's unfortunately in the rule book as well too. It's a better visual guide to it because it looks like a tree. So
they have it set up as a tree. So
yeah.
What page is that, Kevin?
That's on. It's on a couple of pages, like the whole skill section. So like one
Player's
of them
handbook?
is on page 61 of the player's handbook. Okay. Is the knowledge one? That is an easier way to it's a good way of visualizing.
A great visual representation. The idea being that you have your sort of broad capacity with everything that is within a skill group. You have your discipline, which is a narrower field of focus, and your specialty, which is the narrowest field of focus. And you pretty much always roll your specialties, is I think the idea.
Okay.
So you, for instance, under agility, you can see you have a level from 1 to 10 at agility, and then you have a level from 0 to 5 at horsemanship. Horsemanship is a discipline under agility, and then driving a wagon and riding have levels from 0 to 5 for the specific task that you're going to do. And
so even if you have a 0 in something, you still roll it there. You don't roll the characteristic.
So if you have a 0 in something, what you do is you're basically just rolling the characteristic value. So Sven, who has a 4 in agility, a 0 in horsemanship, and a 0 in driving wagon, if he was in a situation where he wanted to do like a sweet maneuver with a wagon that would take a roll, he would click the little roll button next to driving wagon, and he would be trying to get 4 or lower on a d20.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the roll buttons are sized a little bit differently than the skills. So especially under the knowledge skills, it can be hard to tell which roll button you're trying to actually click to roll the right thing. If you mess up, it's just fine.
If you grab the bottom tab of the bottom right tab, you can actually drag it out sideways, and then it'll give it enough room to display properly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So it looks like I've got a minimum of 1 in everything. Do you start at a default of 1 in the broadest category?
You start at a default of 1 in the broadest category. You
can cool.
Always try anything and have a 5% chance.
And do your stats only play in or once you've actually got levels in something?
Your stats are relevant mostly to how you get levels.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So like I said, having high charisma makes it easier for you to learn to do things like perform.
It's like Shadow and Third does that, and Mech Warrior does that as well too. Where like what the stats do is sort of govern all the task resolution stuff you're going to buy afterwards.
Yeah.
So, okay.
There's another sort of subsystem in there where it says like, well, if you want to decide like how hard a door is to break down, you can roll a d20 and add 4 for high strength or -2 for low strength or whatever like that. I don't think we're going to do much with that, mostly because I think it's kind of a silly...
Hold on. I built my whole character around breaking down doors. What are you talking about?
Well, Aemond is actually the one who's good at breaking down doors. So.
I meant asking Aemond to break down doors. That's exactly how I built... By which I mean you built my character.
I noticed that fighting, there's no things to roll.
So fighting works a little bit differently.
Okay.
The way that it works is that based on the level of your fighting broadest, your armed fighting discipline, and your particular specialty that refers to what weapons you're using, you get a certain number of points in a pool. You allocate those points to what you want to do on your turn. That can get kind of messy in play, I think. What they suggest, and what the character sheet actually has a space for, is for you to pre-plan out a number of kind of sets of attacks or actions that are sort of your standard set. When you allocate points in combat, what it does is it basically just the allocated points become your calculated skill value. So for instance, if you take 16 of your combat points and put them into one attack with a broadsword, you have a roll 16 or lower on a d20, and that is the way it works. So obviously, if you have more combat points, you can make more attacks or make more successful attacks or all that sort of stuff. That's the way that it's balanced out. Almost everything in this game is that standard d20 roll, trying to roll under. A 1 is an automatic success, and a 20 is an automatic failure. We're going to play with a rule that I saw and liked, where if you have a total chance that is 20 or higher, you don't have to roll, you just automatically succeed, so that you can't roll that d20 if, for instance, like say, if Aemond tries to break down a door and all of you guys are able to help him, or if you had a battering ram or something, and I said, your chance is probably like a 20 out of 20, you don't have that 5% chance of automatic failure, because I think that's a good way to emphasize getting bonuses from working together that can boost you up to that 20 or higher level.
Okay.
The only rolls that are not d20s for, I think, everything player-sided is initiative and damage rolls. And these are, they call them open rolls, which is basically just a roll that explodes. It's a d10 roll that explodes on different numbers based on the specific type of roll. So, for instance, for a light melee weapon, you have what is D10 OR 10, which is a D10 with an open roll of 10, meaning if you roll a 10 on your D10, it explodes and you get to roll a second D10.
I'm trying to get mine to explode. There we go. Holy shit.
There we go. Yeah. And that keeps going. So in that case, you rolled 4 10s.
Good lord.
Plus a 6, which is basically that shot would be enough to take down like a king troll in one hit. So the ceiling on damage is potentially huge. The odds of getting that are not as good, right? But they're better for heavier weapons. So like a big two-handed greatsword has 1d10 OR 8 to 10, so it explodes on an 8, 9, or 10, so it has 3 times the odds of exploding.
And I imagine that cuts both ways, right?
That cuts both ways. Particularly for larger than human monsters, sometimes they roll multiple d10s, which makes it really dangerous, because you can imagine like a monster that rolls 3d10 at open roll 8 to 10 is almost certainly going to get at least 4d10 of damage, maybe more, which is a lot of body points.
So may I ask another question then?
Of course.
So I see that I've got a stat called Roud. That tells me, what is it?
Roud is fate.
Fate, yeah. So
that is your narrative meta currency.
Got it. Can I use that to not get squooshed, or is it only like when it's used for task resolution?
Let me double check. I am almost certain that you can use it for negate a hit or not die if you would die, something like that. But
Awesome.
let me double check real quick.
Okay.
You have a lot of route. Nobody else does because I rolled really badly for all of them.
Nice.
But that's okay because we're only doing a one shot, and the expectation is that your route is permanent for your character, right? So if you roll 3 route, you have 3 points of narrative metacurrency for the life of that character. Is the idea?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Which is
So it doesn't regenerate. Doesn't
regenerate, doesn't come back. It's your like last ditch opportunity. So
probably means you guys had more interesting lives than me.
Roud. So the character is hit in battle and the damage is so great they will die. By spending Roud, they turn the hit into a miss. The character fails a skill roll that has critical implications for the future. By spending Roud, they succeed at the skill roll. The character says something in a weak moment that has critical consequences. By spending Roud, the fateful words were never spoken.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Unring the bell.
Yeah, it's fairly standard narrative metacurrency stuff.
Yeah.
That also ties into one of the things that I told you guys about this adventure, but to tell the viewers at home about the way that we're going to be playing it. As I see it, there are no, and I think it's an interpretation held up by the careful analysis of the mechanics and of what the guidelines for these skills say. As I see it, there's no like persuade skill or anything like that. All of your talky stuff is based on what you say. You do have some skills that are sort of related to that. So like there's a knowledge skill, Silver Tongue, which Silver Tongue I see as basically your knowledge of rhetoric and convincing argument. If we were in an ancient Roman setting, it would be your ability to know the 5 parts of rhetoric according to Cicero and to make an argument based on that. And that can make it easier for you to say something that is appropriate to the situation, but it's not like you can just say, well, I roll silver tongue to convince this person.
Mm.
What that also means is that every character can talk in every situation. If you run into a troll in the woods, every single character can ask them, hey, what's going on? Or what's up? Or I hate you, troll. I'm going to attack you with my sword, or whatever you want to say to him.
Okay.
And that's tied to an element of this adventure, which is that you are expected, I think, to talk to a lot of things. There's a couple of situations where combat might break out, but combat doesn't have to break out based on what you say in the situation, all of that sort of stuff. Combat is very deadly in the system, especially for the 3 of you who are not Aemond, because you're not kind of as close to a professional warrior as exists in this setting.
Okay.
And so I think I use the example of Bilbo in The Hobbit, that when he encounters Gollum, he does have Sting. His odds are probably pretty good of stabbing Gollum, but he plays the game of riddles instead because that's sort of more in keeping with the ethos of the story. This is a story with a similar ethos.
And it's safer, maybe.
It is also much safer to talk than to fight.
Right.
For all of you who, aside from maybe Aemond, who is a really pretty deadly fighter when he gets down to it, he might be safe. He also wears very heavy armor, so that helps too.
Got it.
I think that is everything that you need to know to play the game. Obviously, if you have questions that come up in the game, don't hesitate to ask. Do you have any questions right now?
Nada.
No.
There's a lot of skills.
There are a lot of skills.
Would it be possible to move the tokens or to the?
Yeah, I can move the tokens wherever. Where do you want them?
And maybe just have them underneath our icon so we can see who everyone is.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
If you don't mind.
And
And I'll try and resituate where. Look at those.
And where? Let me look on the stream to see. Here, let me pull.
If you put it like right around in line with where like Vortland and Finheim are, and Dranvelt. I've got Carl is right under Dranvelt, and
Carl is right under Dranvelt.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go. Sean is right next to him.
Sean is next to him.
And Sinister, yeah, and then it's me next to you. You're in the center. 'Cause
In
you're the
center.
star.
All right.
Oh, and maybe one square. Yeah, there you go. And then Andrew is right next there. Daughter.
Excellent.
Dota. Sorry. Can't read.
Dota the Difear. It's a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the art is just fantastic here.
And I.
Yeah, I really like the art.
Yeah. I think it's
I
Paul
tried-
Bonner, I think, who does the covers and then the character art on it.
Uh-huh.
Paul Bonner did a shit ton of stuff for 3rd edition Shadowrun. And then some other stuff for FASA before FASA went tits up. And then I guess he disappeared, but I guess he was working on this kind of stuff. So that's really good to know.
It's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the art is great. I tried to use all art from the books.
Cool.
So we don't have pictures for a lot of the NPCs, but that's okay because we have beautiful art of the monsters.
Mm-hmm.
That's the trade-off. All right. Are everybody ready to start the adventure?
Oh, I have one question before we get into combat.
Yes.
What are there healing resources at all, or is it sort of like you heal between fights type stuff?
It is mostly you heal between fights. I did not make any characters that use either Vinter, which is magic, or Dimwalkers, who are priests, clerics, essentially.
Okay.
Because those rules are kind of complicated, especially relative to the other skill resolution.
Yeah.
And it, I felt like you guys would be able to handle this adventure just fine without any of that.
Okay. I'm not sure if we're supposed to be able to control our tokens. I cannot.
You cannot control Locair.
No.
Yeah, I can't click on mine.
It may be if you go in. I don't know if this is because of a recent Roll20 change, but it doesn't seem to update who controls the tokens properly right
Okay,
now.
I will-
So you may have to go in manually and just change who has control over each of them.
I can move mine.
Controlled by, it should be determined by character settings. Locair's dungeon user. Let me see if edit use selected. Kevin, can you move Locair now?
I cannot. No.
You cannot. Okay.
What
What
level is he on? Is he on the map layer or is he on the?
He's on the objects and tokens layer.
Okay, yeah, I can't. I can't
yeah.
select him.
Let me just remake them real quick. Let's try Locair.
Oh shit! I can make a token though. Never mind.
Oh, well then.
And that one I controlled. So there we go. Sorry.
All right. Dada.
Yeah, easy. Look at
And
that.
let me show nameplate CNAME. Sinister Sven, show nameplate CNAME. And Big.
Okay.
And Amond.
Awesome.
All right. So, you also have, there's a map of all of Trudvang in the handouts. If you want to look at the whole place, Trudvang is roughly divided into sort of three major sections: Westmark in the west, Midland in the middle, and the Stormlands in the east. There's some other places that are of importance, but we are going to be in the Stormlands, which is the section of the map that is shown here on the Roll20 thing. Specifically, we're going to be in Aidland, I think is how you say it. Down here. In this sort of peninsula that has forest to the north, and specifically we're going to end up in the dense primordial forest of the Wild Heart.
Love it.
But before that, we can imagine in the cinematic version of this story that we are in something of a Jarl's longhouse or a tavern, perhaps, somewhere in Trudvang. It doesn't really matter precisely where. And we see the crowd forming up around a large central hearth, and they burst into applause as out comes our resident dwarven bard. There are a couple of shouts asking for particular songs to be sung, particular stories to be told, but one of them is what catches your attention, and that is a young child who asks for a story called The Trolls and the Princess.
Okay. What do I know about what's of significance for me about that particular?
Well, The Trolls and the Princess is particularly interesting to you because it's an adventure that you were on yourself. It took place in a place called Idleland in the Wild Heart Forest.
Okay.
And so we can imagine as you begin to spin the tale, telling the stories of the wide fields of Idleland and the dense forests, that we can see the farmstead of Krolton. I'm going to butcher so many names in this, so I'm just going to apologize now, but Kroltian, it's Kroltian's farmstead, Ukashearth. Ukashearth is like many farmsteads in this part of the world. It's one kind of larger central building surrounded by a couple of smaller buildings. There are probably between 10 and 20 families that live on this farmstead, many of them who work the fields. Some of them work for Kroltian himself. Some of them are he probably has one or two kind of semi-professional warriors who work for him, who guard the place and all that sort of stuff. And all of you have signed on to his farmstead for the season, the kind of late summer, early autumn season. Each of you doing something related to presumably what your character is good at. So for the first roll of the game in terms of requested rolls, let us have everyone roll whatever skill they think is appropriate to what they have been doing. If you can't think of anything more special than just being a working peasant in the fields, roll tradesman peasant. But if you think you've been doing something else, this will tell us sort of
how wealthy and how cultured is this person who owns this land.
So the standard for me is fairly similar to the kind of large scale noble farmers of the Icelandic sagas. He's not a jarl by any means. He doesn't have a long house. He has a 2-story house and a sort of courtyard around it, surrounded by buildings. He probably doesn't have enough money to pay you to perform all the time. You probably have to be doing something in addition to that, although if performance is sort of your main thing that you're providing for the community, that's okay too.
Would I be right to think this guy's got, or he may have like a still or something, or a brewery?
Oh, you're going right in my direction. I'm with you on that. I got brewery too.
I got 16 in brewery.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm 16 as well, I guess.
Because I got 16. I got 16 in cooking. I got 16 in barber. So I could be the all-purpose, like.
So that's that very much fits with Lokar is something of a jack of all trades. So.
Oh wow, that section of my sheet is okay. What about I see that I'm pretty good at locks and traps, and obviously I think we know. I think we all know usually what I'm doing with those things, but setting the traps is probably also something I could do maybe. So I'm thinking traps for predatory creatures that'll come onto his property and eat all his plants and such. Maybe that would work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. He's sort of on the outskirts of Wildheart, the wild wood in the north. There are definitely wolves. There are probably even goblins or trolls that have shown up once or twice that you could set traps for, or Aemond is probably there as a guard, a warrior to chase off people like that.
Okay, cool.
What if What is Brock? B-R-O-K.
Rock is the language that the Stormlands speak.
Right.
So your skill in Rock represents basically not so much how well you speak it, but how well you know the language. So like if somebody asked you, if you had a 19 in Rock or something like that, you know pretty much all the esoteric words, you know how the grammar works. If somebody, wanted you to teach their children how to speak fine Rock, you could do that. If you have closer to like a 10, you probably speak with something of an accent. You probably don't have that kind of native level of knowledge.
I think I poisoned someone. I rolled a nat 20 on my cooking.
A nat 20 on your cooking. So Locaire has not been able to. So what I'm interpreting that as for these roles is that it has more to do with the kind of standing that you have gained within the community for what you've been doing, not your kind of raw ability. Locaire, they like you, but they don't think you're a very good cook, and they don't particularly.
What I lack in skill, I make up for in enthusiasm. Here, portions. There's so much of it.
You can feed the whole land.
And Aemond and Sven, locks and traps. Ooh. Dada, pretty good. Better than Locaire.
Two wolves got through, clearly.
It's a poor man who piles on a pile already. Come on.
But you, similarly, you're not really at the top of the list for there's probably about 10 kind of seasonal workers here on this farmstead. And you're ranked like number 7.
Great. Yep.
Are there any kids around, Arlen?
Yes, there are definitely children. There are a couple of, I think I said 10 to 20 families that live here permanently, and they're definitely children.
Because some of my highest scores are in monster lore and spirit lore.
Yes.
Maybe a little teaching, or I don't know if there'd be anything like that.
Yeah, you could use one of your knowledge skills to be something of the local wise man for.
What is Vrock?
Vrock is the language that the Stormlands speak.
Yes. So I'm pretty learned. I think I'm going to go with, I'm probably teaching, so I'll go and probably... 1, 2, 3. So let's see here. I think this is correct.
It was one success.
Nice. So yeah, you've been able, you rank quite a bit higher than these other two. You definitely, they respect your wisdom, your knowledge of the world, particularly as it relates to the kind of evil spirits that can haunt things. And this is a pretty superstitious part of the world, even relative to the kind of early medieval standards of Trudvang itself. So definitely.
So my best stuff is like lore, legends, customs, laws, and Brock.
Yeah. So any of those would work just fine.
Customs and laws, I guess.
Yeah, customs and laws. Why don't you
Educating people on the customs and laws of the Stormlands. I will try that. No modifiers.
Nice.
Yeah, so Aemond has a similar role to Sven. He knows quite a bit about this part of the world. He's able to probably teach his children, probably teach the adults sometimes too, if they aren't, they're, kind of country bumpkins, and you as a warrior have probably seen parts of the world that these people had never have, if, they may well never have traveled more than a day or two beyond the farmstead itself. So excellent. So we have a sort of idea of what you have been doing for most of this season, and this is about when Carlton, one morning, it's probably very early autumn, although autumns come early in this part of the world, has you all each individually summoned to come to his he might call it his hall, but more likely he just calls it his house, and it's sort of the largest room on the lower story, and there's an upper story with bedrooms. Carlton wants you guys the four of you to deliver a wagon of goods to his brother Magne, who runs or owns the farmstead that is about 2 days away from his farmstead, Yugashearth. Magne's farmstead is Barfield. There's a road in between them. He doesn't expect any particular trouble on the road, although it does every once in a while pass into the forest or the eaves of the forest of Wildheart. He essentially says, you guys have been working for me. This is a pretty easy task. I am appointing Aemond to be in charge of the wagon and the goods, make sure they get to Magne. Why don't you leave in an hour or so? So gather your things.
Forgive me, how long does it take to get there?
2 days.
2 days, okay.
So one night spent on the road.
Okay. Now, don't worry, fellows. I'll be sure to bring enough gruel for all of us. Plenty of gruel. Tasty. Tasty gruel.
Is that the bad batch, Loker, or the
There's no such thing as a bad batch of gruel.
Hmm.
You just don't have proper taste buds to appreciate it.
Speak for yourself.
Maybe we'll have time to do a little learning on the road.
Likely the gruel will taste like dirt.
I'm sorry, Sven. I thought I misheard you. Did you say drinking on the road?
We can do both.
Oh, aye. All right. What is it we're delivering then?
You are delivering. It's probably largely casks of ale or mead.
Oh, hello, mother. Yes.
Don't get any ideas of drinking the delivery.
Oh, aye, there'll be plenty left. Don't you worry, Aemond. Keep your eye on the road. I'll keep an eye on the ale.
It's needed for the cooking, is it, Loker?
Yeah, indeed. Though I wouldn't want to spoil good gruel with that.
Mm.
Now, is this something that we've been asked to do before, or is it something that is sort of...
You've probably been given kind of almost missions like this before. This is kind of standard operating procedure for Carlton, is that when he needs something done, he turns to one of the non-locals to deal with these kind of extraneous problems. You probably never actually taken a wagon anywhere. Let's have everybody roll Stormlands knowledge, customs, and laws to see what you know about any significance to this particular. Locaire, let me double check your character sheet because you may only have dwarven.
I got dwarven stuff, yeah. So I'd have rolled a flat 7, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. So the dice still don't quite line up with things.
Yeah.
The dice is essentially it's one, like the dice is one thing lower.
Fucking, I succeeded.
One row lower, right?
Yeah, I actually succeeded.
Succeeded, nice.
Excellent.
Well, Sven did better than I did, though.
Yeah, so Loker, Aemond, and Sven, and then Dada.
I think this is it. It's the same number regardless, so I think.
Okay, so yeah, it's just fine.
There we go.
Excellent. All right. So, what you guys know is that the all thing for Adeland is going to happen fairly soon. In particular, Magne and Carlton are likely to both attend that that all thing, take part as wealthy landowners in the political machinations going on in this part of the world, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is this a bribe then?
Probably not a bribe. He's probably just trying to move people around so that when his brother Magne takes his house warriors away, somebody like Aemond is there to watch the place, because Magne's farm is a little further from the kind of civilized core of Adeland.
Okay.
So you guys, depends on your character, kind of how much you pick up on that kind of subterfuge. You definitely know about the all thing, about all that sort of stuff. Aemond, you're probably the most likely to have a sense that Carlton is really just trying to make sure that there's a good warrior there who can guard the place while his brother and his warriors are away.
So the expectations we're going to go there and then remain there until his brother gets back?
Well, his brother is probably still there. The expectation is that his brother is going to offer you a job to stay there when you get there.
Oh, okay, and then that won't offend our...
That won't offend Carlton at all.
Okay. All right. So, I'll make sure I bring all my shit then, such as it is.
Pots, pans, learning materials.
Pots and pans were, that I think may have been borrowed. Which explains why the gruel turned out as it did.
Ah.
Yeah. They say it's a clever dwarf that blames his tools. I may have misheard that. So...
I won't hold it against you.
Oh, great. This is why I like you, Sven.
Now
All
let's
right.
get back to the learning.
Again, drinking?
Back to the books. With a stein.
So do we, I guess if we're just heading out right away, they've got everything ready, we're pretty much good to go to hit the road, I suppose.
Yeah, you're pretty much ready to go.
How well, like, so, it sounds like Sven and I have known each other for a while now. How well do Dada, Emond, and the rest of us, and the two of us know each other?
I think that's up to you guys. Why don't Dada and Amond, what do you think? Have you been chatty Cathy's or...
No, Eamon doesn't really talk much.
Fair. Dada's a sneaky sort who likes to stick to the shadows, so I imagine she's kind of around the same. Like, she's not super talkative, but probably a little bit more social. Probably would have sat around and shared some pints with Sven and Lockhair a few times anyway.
Okay. I think if Amond is fairly laconic, then I'll probably needle him a little bit, like in a jovial kind of way.
He's not happy with you guys joking about stealing stuff, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Stealing the stuff we're supposed to deliver.
Funny thing is, the one who's probably good at it isn't the one joking about it.
Yeah. Hey man, keep your eye on the ale. Watch out. I'm feeling
As
a mighty
long as we're
thirst
all
coming on.
As long as we're all learning, we should spend a little time in the books.
Oh, again, you and the books.
Now hand me a stein.
So are we to have horses, or will Eamon be dragging the cart the whole way? He's certainly big enough to do it.
No, there's the cart has a draft horse up to it. One of you will have to...
Eamon, we have someone to take your place.
drive.
This'll be a treat for you.
Somebody will have to drive. You don't need any particular skill in driving wagons to keep a wagon on this easy road at a slow pace.
Okay.
So don't worry about having skill at it. Just whoever wants to be the driver can. There's
Sure.
probably not enough room for everybody else to sit in the wagon. So I think the rest of you are walking.
So who's
Oh,
just in case something happens, who's gonna...
I have the smallest legs. Dwarves are pretty stocky in this, so it may be
Yeah.
best if I'm driving the wagon.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
You can see from up there, you can see Sinister Sven's bald spot.
I beg your pardon.
So he keeps his hood up the whole time.
No.
It's because my brain is busted
Town.
out. Too much knowledge.
There it is, driveway.
All right. So you guys set out on the road to Barfield Magnus Farm. Like I said, it'll take about 2 days. It's a winding road that every once in a while goes into the forest. For the most part, it stays at about the edge of the forest. So you'll have kind of light leafy forest on your left, and on your right, the sort of open lands. Sometimes there are farms. There are probably not very many of these large farmsteads. I think there's only one along the way. But there are freeholder farms more commonly that are, a single building with some fields around it. That
And would we sleep in like a barn of theirs along the way, or?
you could definitely negotiate for that. One of the things that happens along the first day is that you meet Magnus Heard, being the trained warriors. He has, I think, 3 warriors who are essentially as close to professional warriors as this society has. They don't work in the fields or anything like that. And then he has another 7 of the adult men from the families on his farmstead who have their militia gear and all of that sort of stuff. The 3 warriors are on battle-trained horses. The rest of them are walking on foot. Each of the warriors has a shaven head.
What do we know about shaven-headed peoples?
So the shaven head has to do with the experience of killing another man in battle. Specifically, the idea that a man with a shaven head represents someone who has killed a foe in combat before. So these 3, the professional warriors who are probably in chainmail with scale accoutrements and bits and pieces, like Aemond himself. Heavy armor, large broadswords, and big shields, and these shaved heads. Aemond, do you think you take part in this tradition? Because I think you have killed somebody in battle before.
Well, you have me pictured with long hair.
I do have you pictured in long hair, but you're welcome to retcon it to have short or shaven hair.
Maybe he doesn't partake in that tradition.
Yeah.
Except if he has like nice, pretty, long blonde hair.
Is this a tradition that, like, because hair grows back, is this something that once you have killed another person in combat, you are kind of expected to then permanently keep it shaved? Or is it like for a time you will shave it and then it'll grow back?
It's a permanent shaved type thing.
Okay, so it's like a kind of like a first blood thing, and then
yes,
you don't know how many you have killed. It's not a representative of that. It's just you have done this once.
Yes, a blooded warrior will in much of the Stormlands, blooded warriors will have shaved heads. So that's sort of an indication to you guys that these guys are no joke. And they're not going to fully fan out to block the road, but they are the two of the big warriors on big war horses will sort of ride up on either side of the draft horse, and one of them will say, "Speak your business."
We're delivering goods on behalf of whatever the guy's name was to the other guy, to his brother in the name of the other town.
Carlton is our employer, I think.
Yeah, maybe you could put in chat what the
Oh yes, let me.
names are. Sorry,
So
those Icelandic names or Swedish names are a little tricky.
me,
Carlton and Magnus, maybe?
Yeah.
Kraltian, brother Magne.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're delivering these goods on behalf of our employer, and I guess it would be the clan leader, or is it? He's not a jarl, you said, but he's
Earl, didn't you say?
He's probably you probably just say Kralton because these are his brother's people, so they know who he is, right?
right. So we're taking these goods on behalf of Carlton to his brother Magne for the presumably for the impending alting.
So Dirge, who is the leader of this group, the biggest of these professional warriors, he kind of looks over each of you, not with like a killer stare, but you can tell he's a tough customer and he's not going to take any shit from you guys. So he's probably a little intimidating, especially for, well, if you're intimidated by that sort of thing. And then
unfortunately, we have a good news. There is no shit on offer here.
He looks in the wagon kind of perfunctorily, sees that it's barrels of ale, and he says something to one of his men, and then he turns to Aemond, who, even though he's walking, he can probably tell that Aemond is the toughest warrior, and that's who he naturally respects. Says, our campsite is not too many miles farther. You should be able to find it fairly easily. It would likely be a good place to stop along the way.
Can we tell that these guys are in service to Magne, or like who they're in service to, or are they just wandering around tough guys?
Oh, they're definitely in service to Magne.
Oh, okay, so yeah.
They didn't really introduce themselves, though, right?
They didn't. This is a road that basically only leads to Magne's farm, which is at the kind of ass end of the world in this part of the place.
Okay.
Well, I introduced myself, Eamon, son of Bjornsson. Eamon Bjornsson thanks you on behalf of myself and my companions for the offer. We will definitely make camp. Is there danger along the road?
And Dirge sort of
not that you all couldn't take care of it, but maybe you left some for the rest of us.
he kind of chuckles and said, "I don't think there's anything on the road that would challenge us. We didn't see anything." And we keep a pretty safe. I think it's fair to say you guys can tell that Magna's men probably do a pretty good job of essentially policing the area.
Okay. Well, then,
Thank you for your hospitality, your offer of hospitality. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that I'm picturing that like if we're traveling along too, I don't think I'm cracking out my whatever the it's not a lyre. I don't even know what that instrument is.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah, so what I'm not sure that I track an instrument out necessarily, but I think maybe I'm either like whistling or singing most of the time. Just because he's quite good at it, and it's the equivalent of putting the radio on, know?
Right.
So they probably heard us, or at least me, from quite some time away. Once I sort of get the nod from Eamon that I can, carry on, I'll hit the reins on the horse, and then I'll go back to my song.
Yeah, so these men, Dirge kind of makes a wide arm gesture. The men walk around the cart and continue on their way. It's maybe another hour and a half till you get to what you think is probably the campsite that Dirge mentioned. It's basically a kind of not quite a cave. There's a sort of hill next to the road that the road actually winds around, and sort of a hollow in the hill, the side of the hill that you can camp at and have a fire without anybody seeing. And
does this look like something they use quite often? Like, is this
this is definitely a spot that there's no freeholder farms really. Yeah. At this point, so this is probably where every time that they leave Magnus Farm, this is probably where they stay.
Is it unoccupied right now, or?
Nobody is in it right now, although you can see the remains of the fire circle that the Dirge and his men had and all of that sort of stuff.
Okay. Good. Well, make camp, unhitch the animal, right, so it can rest. We don't need to like take the barrels out or anything like that.
No, you can leave them. They're probably some sort of straps or something on them that will keep them in place.
Sure. So yeah, I guess we'll take advantage of the space and set up a tent and whatever else. Is there anything with like dwarves and horses in this setting? Like, do we care? Do we not like them? Do we like them a lot?
Not really. You probably are too small to effectively ride a horse.
So I was thinking that's what I was wondering, if I'm just kind of leery around them, because
I
probably look about the size of a predator, and I don't want to kick in the head.
Well, and the dwarves in this setting, many of them keep to themselves in the mountains. So, and you probably grew up there because that's really where the largest community of dwarves is. Mm-hmm. So you definitely have experience with horses in your time among the humans, okay. But it's probably one of those things where you never really grew out of your surprise at just how big they are and all that.
And I'm probably not very good at, if it's probably a relatively new thing to learn how to, depending on how long I've been out, to actually maneuver the wagons. So I probably shout at the horse a lot more than is necessary.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not stopping, Sven! The beast is not stopping!
Be calm, be calm.
I am calm, stop this thing!
Sven will go up and kind of, pat the horse on the side because nothing's really happening. And the horse, maybe the horse.
Careful. Watch it. They're crafty creatures.
Just stay on top, Looker. Stay on top.
Okay. I will then. I think I'll definitely share the song of Ivan the Addled. He's a warrior who got kicked in the head by a horse, and he seemed to always be. He wouldn't want to get into fights anymore. He sort of lost his nerve, except against cavalrymen.
Classic.
Your ability for timely tales never ceases to surprise.
It's it. I have to make up for my gruel.
That's for sure.
So the I'm quite domestic as well too. So I can would it be weird to, as a thanks for the sharing the camp, to prepare enough stuff for the what do you call it, for the guys as well too, the warriors? Killers?
They passed on. They're
going to some other camp. Oh, okay, nice.
They're at another camp.
And do we do any hunting? Is anyone a hunter that could just grab game and stuff like that, or do we not need to worry about that?
You probably have rations from.
Yeah, I said we had like 10 days until we are like.
Yeah, you have enough. If you're fully loaded, you have enough for essentially 10 days of survival.
Okay.
You're probably not fully loaded.
We're only going 2 days, right?
5 or 4 days is plenty for a 2-day journey.
Okay.
All right, an uneventful night happens, although you can definitely feel, if you're sensitive to this, the sort of first cold winds of what will eventually be a harsh winter are coming through in this autumn. There's definitely a sense that you may well end up spending the winter at Magnus Farm if you don't get out soon.
Sven, we must consider whether we wish to spend our winter here, or whether we should find more civilized lands.
Aye, that wind sends a message. It'd be foolish to ignore it. I agree.
Not that I had not enjoyed our summer cooking and brewing, but perhaps there's better uses our skills could be put to.
Very true. We'll have to evaluate once we get there, know the story.
Oh, indeed. The next mosquito that bites me. Perhaps somewhere indoors.
Stay on top of your horse, Looker.
Don't get me near that horse. And I'll just plung a couple strings from Ivar or Ivan the Addled to emphasize my point. Anything? So if nothing happens, I guess we'll just pack up and head out the next day.
Yeah, and it's another. You don't meet anyone particular on the road. You're starting to get into more forest. The road is starting to travel rather than at kind of the very edge. It's getting, every once in a while, winds kind of deeper into the forest, and that's always not a huge concern, but obviously if something were to happen, it would happen in those areas. But it's probably about 3 or 4 in the afternoon when you see Magnus Farm Barfield in the distance, and there's a sort of, it's not like a forest clearing, but you can definitely tell where the worked land ends and wild land begins, just from your view of the place. So assuming that you guys are just walking or driving the wagon up to the farm, it's very similarly laid out to the farmstead that you came from. It's kind of one larger 2-story building and then a ring of smaller buildings around it to create a sort of courtyard with the farmland outside of that.
I'm going to keep playing my song, or one of my songs, going into, mainly just so that everyone knows we're here before, that way they can come and meet us or greet us or whatever, the way they choose to.
Yeah. And there's 1 or 2, probably more than that. There's more like 5 or 6 people sort of standing around in this kind of courtyard as you roll up. And then out from the doors comes a large figure. You don't need to roll anything to see the family resemblance between Magne and his brother Carlton, who hired you for this. He's a pretty well-built man. He has a shaved head like those of his warriors did. Carlton did not have a shaved head, and so you perhaps wonder if he doesn't take part in that, or if he perhaps maybe he's the younger brother you never thought to ask, I think. But Magne comes out, and he has a sort of wild look in his eyes, and he looks at the group, 5 or 6 people sort of standing around muttering, and then it takes in the sight of you with the wagon, and each of you kind of looks at one by one until he comes at last to Aemond. And he shouts, "You, warrior! My princess, she's been taken. I'll give you 100 silver pieces if you can bring her back."
I guess I look around. It's not,
Do you
So
know?
I guess he's looking at. I guess he's talking to us.
To
He's
you,
pointing
Aemond.
right at you.
Oh,
Does he know you, Aemond?
I don't know. Because I am Aemond Bjornsson. We are here to deliver goods. You seem very distraught and in need of. We will rescue your daughter. I volunteer, everyone.
Wait, we? Yeah. Did he? I lean into Sven. Did he say we?
So,
The Lord of the Manor put you on the spot.
right after Magne is a woman who you would guess is Magne's wife, who kind of puts a hand on his shoulder, and he seems to calm down a little bit at that. And he says, "Perhaps, please come inside, and we will discuss the terms of our arrangement."
Yeah, I mean, I guess 100 silver or whatever he gave is a lot.
Yeah, so 100 silver is enough to buy like 6 or 7 of your finely crafted swords, the kind of sword that you use. I haven't calculated out like what it is equivalent to in modern day dollars or anything like that, like GURPS, but
You know, one bonkers thing. I just noticed the reason I kept looking around before is the equipment's not in the fucking player's guide.
equipment's not in the player's guide. It's in the GM's guide for whatever reason. And there's nothing about how much money you should start with or anything like that in the player's guide.
That's a little bizarre.
It's just up to the GM what you start with, basically.
Wow.
Which is a little odd for a points buy game where you're spending those points on specific skills.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I just gave you basically the best stuff that you could use.
Awesome.
What a kind and merciful GM who's all going to try to kill us.
We follow Magne and his wife into the.
Yeah, I'll have to hop down and head inside. And
Is there like servants to take care of the horse or?
Yeah,
Stuff?
so there's probably a stabler or two who come out from one of the barns or something that start unlocking the horse, and maybe a workman who comes over and starts taking down barrels. It's clear that this is, other than Magne's outburst, this is pretty regular occurrence for them. Although the gossiping crew outside, you imagine, might have something to do with Magne's outburst, of course.
So maybe I'm sort of, directing or whatever, also trying to like help with the tarp and whatever with the crew, and I'll say, has he said his daughter's gone? How long has that been the case?
So one of the women in the group, she sort of looks down at you, and she doesn't quite like get down on one knee to whisper in your ear, but she definitely kind of leans down at you a little patronizingly, and says, This morning Sola was discovered to be missing, and troll tracks.
Troll, is that common in this country? You lose princesses to trolls quite. In this region, I mean, like not like Trudvang in general.
So trolls are pretty common. If you had to guess, if Dirge and his men were here, they would have gone right after them and run them down and just killed the trolls, because trolls are they're pretty tough. Most trolls are not very smart.
Mm.
And, they're sort of cunning in that base way that many humanoids have in many role-playing games. But clearly, if they're stupid enough to leave tracks, if the serious warriors were here, they would deal with this. But they're all on the way to the all thing. So Magne has picked out what he thinks is the most serious warrior around to offer to go get his daughter back.
Yeah, I figured it must have been recent because,
Yeah, those guys just left, right?
right, the tough fellows back there didn't seem to know anything about it.
Forgive me for asking more in particulars too. Did he say he'd pay you 100 silver, or did he say he'd pay us 100 silver?
Oh, I will. Do not worry. I will share it with everyone.
Did you say you won't or you will?
I will.
Oh, okay.
So far,
Don't worry, you're not getting any dwarf. Right?
it seems like you've behaved and drink a lot
Ah,
of.
Eamon, have you hunted trolls before?
Sure. No, I have not hunted trolls. Let's just go in and talk to Magne. I mean, does anyone, unless someone wants to stay out here and try to find out more from the
Indeed.
common, as it were. I mean, does anyone want to do that?
Sure. No, I'm done. Like, I'll shut up for a bit here. Although I can tell you that Loker's mind is immediately turning to composing the future song he will sing in this.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of a given for the way that he operates.
And Sinister, who is quite good in calculate, is thinking about that silver.
Yep.
That's 25 each.
25 silver each,
Yeah.
which is, about the worth of 2 quality swords.
And think of how many books. That's a lot of books.
Okay. A good horse, maybe. I don't know. All right. So we'll follow Magne in.
Yeah, so Magne has his house is basically one large room on the bottom with stairs leading up to bedrooms up top. He's got kind of a long table that he sits at one end of, and he kind of gestures for you all to come towards his end of the table to sit down at the offered chairs. His wife is sitting next to him, and as soon as you all sit down, there's no particular courtesy that you need to follow in terms of this kind of arrangement. There's not like a cultural thing about sitting down first or anything like that.
I guess before we begin, I have some questions.
Yes,
about
of course.
the culture. So we do know that there are half trolls and half dwarf trolls, right?
Yes.
So are trolls abducting women like a common thing? Or
Trolls
or what-
abducting women are sort of like a way to scare children often, but it definitely happens. And
so are these unions from that type of thing, or is it like there's actually maybe people who live in the forest who are friendly to trolls, or dwarves that are friendly to trolls, and this is like a mutual thing?
So there might be wild folk up beyond the Ice Peak Mountains in the woods to the north that hypothetically get along better with trolls, but half trolls are pretty much always from abductions like these.
Mm.
Yeesh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I just want to know about the cultural
Yeah, no, of course.
or the lore, whatever, whether it's wrong or a wrong thinking or not, what we believe.
Okay.
Okay.
So, we'll have a seat.
Yeah, I'll have a seat.
All right, so you sit down and he says, my daughter, Sola, I call her Princess. She's the most beautiful. And he kind of chokes up for a minute. And he says, she's gone. We found a muddy troll footprint in her bedroom and more troll tracks out in the fields. I need someone to chase these trolls down, to recover my daughter. And I promised you 100 silver pieces. I'll even up it to 30 each if you are interested in splitting.
That it is as you decide. Do we just call him Magne, or do we give him is there a title?
Yeah, he probably doesn't have an honorific. This is a sort of like I said about like early medieval Iceland.
Yeah.
It's kind of a place where the nobility are kind of closer to the lower classes than other parts of the medieval world.
Well,
Magne, I am not a greedy person, but I think the 100 is fine. My companions, they might have other.
Now,
not that they're greedy.
We don't want to insult his generosity. If he's clearly he values his daughter quite a bit.
We appreciate your generosity. I'm sure your daughter is worth much more than that meager coin.
Oh, indeed. I imagine your daughter would be worth going as high as 50 silver for each of us. How valued she is to you.
Sinister's going to snicker a little, but he hides it.
But we are. If you would show us where the tracks are, we have our road gear. We're willing to look at it, and then
Indeed.
with haste, it would seem.
For every silver coin you threw in, too, you would find it very well spent, sir. Aemond is a legendary troll tracker. But I'm not sure you've heard. It's very far out here, but his name is known as a legendary troll tracker. From
Finn's
here
eyebrow goes
all
nuts.
the way down to the coast in Saga.
I'm gonna sit by the wall in
So-
the nearest shadow I can find.
Yeah, Magne is sort of he can see through that fairly easily. I mean, he
I would
runs
hope so. I'm laying it on
Yeah.
thick.
I'm
Yeah,
probably
so he
shaking
kind of
my head,
once
shaking
you're
my head,
done,
somewhat embarrassed.
he sort of pauses to collect himself and says, he points to Lokar and says, "You, nothing more from you.
Probably for the
50
best.
gold for the warrior, 30 for everyone else. Find my daughter."
If you could have one of your people take us to the troll tracks, and we will hastily retrieve your daughter.
Did you say there's one in her bedroom, sir?
There is one upstairs. Let me lead you. And so he first leads you upstairs. You see there's a great big, it's essentially a great big footprint, a muddy footprint. It does not look quite like, trying to see based on the illustration if the trolls have anything particular about their feet or anything like that. I think they probably have more kind of gnarled claws almost, or toenails that grow like that. So
How
there's
big are we
probably-
talking? How big are we talking? Is it like a 3 foot wide footprint, or?
It's so it's probably about half again as large as a full-size man's. That's, but how about everybody, or Sven, why don't you, because I think you're the best at monster
I
lore.
was
why
just
don't you-
about to bring that up. If that could give me any help in legitimizing what we're looking at here.
Eamon, are Magne and his wife here with us, or is it, they just showed us the room? And
the wife stayed downstairs. Magne is up here showing you.
I do look around, and I mean, did the troll come in through the window? Are there other tracks that would suggest that it came through the hall and up here?
There is a fairly large window. It would still probably be a squeeze for a troll, but they're when they set their minds to mischief, they can be remarkably competent at causing it.
So look around the window for like claw marks or whatever.
Yeah, and
indication.
there's probably not like real claw marks, but there's definitely like mud and stuff that was tracked in.
Right. But so it came through the window. That's the theory.
And Magne, standing in the room, you can tell is taking a toll on him, and he kind of whispers out, "She was 16. You have to bring her back."
Is her age specifically significant in terms of like a cultural thing around here? Is it like a age thing? Is it like marriageable age? Is that like, is he concerned about like legacy? I mean, he should be just concerned about her as a person, but like,
Yeah, so there is an element to that. She's probably getting pretty close to marriageable age. I think if you're paying attention, you read it much more as kind of him. He's, at least in that particular statement, it sounded a lot more like he's kind of nearing the autumn of his life himself, more about her being young and vulnerable than about her being potentially marriageable for being beautiful.
Fair. So more of a she's not quite ready to protect herself yet. She can't and he's losing the capacity to protect her, and clearly he's failing.
Yes.
Worried about.
Yes.
Okay.
Make the monster lore roll then on the print.
Sure. Why don't you make the monster lore roll and let's see what you know about trolls.
Ooh, very.
Excellent.
Wow.
Yeah. So you know a lot about lots of trolls. You know a lot about particularly gray trolls, which are the most common sort. And let's look at a picture from the book.
Yay!
Yeah.
Oh,
Love them.
The gray trolls. So these trolls, at standing up at full height, they're probably in the range of 40% taller than a person. They have kind of oversized hands and feet relative to that. So you're guessing this is a footprint from a fairly average-sized gray troll. If you had to guess, this is almost certainly a gray troll. The other species of trolls, so goblins and forest trolls, are both trollkin. They're both much smaller. They're smaller than a person. And then there's another species, the Hrim troll, which is the ice troll, lives far up in the north, doesn't live in Wildheart almost certainly. And then there's the king troll, which is devilishly intelligent, where the other trolls are stupid, and it wouldn't resort to climbing through a window to get her out. He would almost certainly ensorcel the girl and have her walk out herself if you wanted her.
So the size, Sven's fingertips are like brushing the edges of this print. So the size of this print is substantial. It almost surely tells us it's a gray troll, the most common. Dumb as an ox as usual, and would leave this print here right in the place where she was taken.
Cunning.
Arlen, so is there a way, since Sven's a thinker, and so he's also going to be looking to make sure that that there's nothing mischievous about this print, that since it's so obvious here and it's possible that a troll left it, like it would be likely. Trolls aren't brilliant, but at the same time, it's kind of a place you'd leave it if you wanted to think it was a troll. So he's looking for, like, this is, if he can tell, there's no hocus pocus about this. He's going to try to bona fide it.
Yeah. I don't think you need to roll to tell. I think with your really good monster lore roll, you have a sense of what a real troll footprint looks like versus somebody trying to fake it. If it's fake, it's somebody who knows more about trolls than you do, and there aren't people like that.
Yeah, that there's not too many of those. Sven's not even thinking that way.
Okay. All right. Can he supply us with food then? For how long is a troll?
Magna says, "Come downstairs, and I'll have some men gather up rations and whatever else you require.
Right.
And then they can lead you out to the fields to follow the tracks."
Yep.
I think Eamon's kind of calling the tune on this.
I do kind of like while Loker, I guess, is gathering up, making sure we have the right provisions, since he's good at that. I'm going to talk to Sven and kind of share that. I also thought that might be the case, but I guess you would alleviate my concerns that it's not fake, correct?
Yeah, I know trolls. I'm feeling pretty confident about this, Eamon.
Okay.
It's a gray troll we're going to be tracking.
Right. I practice my troll felling swings while we're waiting.
All right, so you, I'm assuming that there's no penalty for gearing up fully, so I'm assuming you're taking the full rations, essentially 10 days of food and water.
Yep. Hopefully we'll not need it, but...
Hopefully you won't need all of that, but Yeah.
Does Sven have a weapon? I mean, do we because now we could equip if he doesn't normally carry one.
Sven uses a staff.
Okay.
He's got kind of a quarter staff that he normally uses.
Okay.
I have a short bow. Do I need to like worry about stringing it or things like that, or can I assume I leave it stringed all the time?
You can, like Odysseus, draw and string and fire as a single action.
Oh, okay.
Because
How is Dota armed? Like a spear, like in the picture?
Dota has a glaive, which is a short sword.
Hmm.
And then Aemond has a big, what's called a Barda sword and a battle sword, which is kind of what the warriors of the Stormlands often fight with when they use swords. It's a big, mean, larger than a standard arming sword. Even it's almost to the size of a medieval bastard sword.
I didn't think. Where's it listed on the what we have?
Your
Combat
glass.
page?
It's only listed under combat
Yeah.
and weapons.
Oh, okay.
I didn't put anything on the equipment page in terms of what you would be carrying beyond.
Oh, okay, glad. Okay.
Okay.
Narrate out that.
Okay. So where to, like, are we gonna set out the same day? I guess.
Magnate
Yeah.
wants you. He wants you to leave and
Like right away.
go until nightfall, and then go the next day and as much as it takes.
Are trolls nocturnal normally?
Trolls, they can be. They certainly have better eyesight at night than all of you except Dota, probably. But they are they don't have like a superhuman endurance or anything like that. So they're probably moving either at night or during the day,
Okay.
but not both.
Will we have to hustle in order to catch up to these things? It might be a stupid question, but like,
You're going to be hustling.
you know it.
Yeah.
Just stay on top, Loker.
I'm
Stay on
assuming.
top of the-
I won't trust a horse. No, forget that.
Yeah.
You'll be jogging them while we're hustling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we're tracking something, it's gonna be really hard to be
Probably
riding a horse and seeing where.
None of you are particularly experienced trackers. You won't necessarily need to be to start the trail, but you won't be able to move that fast following the trail just because none of you have that kind of like. It's not like you're a D&D ranger where you can just sort of sense where each of the tracks go and follow along. You'll have to go at probably above a walking pace, but
Okay.
won't be able to like jog all day or anything like that. It'll be kind of mixed walking and jogging, and especially once you get into the woods, obviously you'll slow down.
Yeah.
You know, and we forgot to kind of ask or look to see if there was really like a signs of struggle up there in the room.
Oh, it's a 16-year-old girl and an 8 foot
Yeah, she might
tall
have
troll.
fainted,
It's
but,
probably not
you
much of a struggle.
Right.
Yeah, there's not really any kind of like the bed isn't broken or anything like that. But if she was sleeping and a big troll came into her room and grabbed her, she might have had time to scream, but probably not enough to.
Did they hear the scream? Like that's. I don't know, Loker's obviously not asking this, but I'm kind of trying to funnel through the others. Like, did they hear the scream, or did they just find her gone in the morning?
They did not hear a scream or anything like that. They just found her gone.
I'm guessing that's not too peculiar, just because, like I said, they can be quite crafty sometimes.
Yeah, and when it happens, unfortunate as it is, this is how it happens that a girl goes missing in their troll tracks, and often that's kind of the end of that story as far as the human side goes.
Okay. I don't suppose he's got someone who could help us with the tracking aspect.
So this is one of those things that, again, if his men were here, one of them certainly would know. His trained warriors, I'm certain that some of them know enough about tracking to be at least as good as you are and better. But again, he's operating with a whole lot less people than usual, since he sent away most of his his gophers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is there a assisting in the system, Arlen? Assisting someone else?
Rules as written, there isn't really. I think that's a little silly. So my thought is that assisting will generally give you between like a +2 if you do a little bit, to as much as a +5 if you're like almost as good but not quite as good as the person you're assisting.
Okay.
That specifically is meant to tie in with the if you have a score of 20 or higher, you don't have to roll at all, because I think that is a good way to encourage you to work together. And if somebody has a 16, obviously they only need a +4 to be at 20 or higher to have no chance of failing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Very good. Well, we should go, eh?
Yeah, we should look. So at the site where they take us, where these tracks are, anything unusual? We're assuming there'll be troll tracks, but are there human tracks alongside it? Any worn clothing, strands of hair?
No torn clothing, no strands of hair. What you notice immediately, these trolls are really dumb because they walked side by side. And there are 3 of them.
How many trolls are there then? 3?
There are 3 sets of footprints side by side leading towards the forest.
Well, at least we outnumber them. And he looks around like a little bit auspiciously.
Is she walking with them, or is she being carried by them?
She, at least at this point, is being carried by them. There's no
Okay.
footprint. There's no barefoot human footprints or kind of like small girl. Well, whether or not you consider 16 a girl, no 16-year-old girl footprints in the field. There are footprints from Magna's men who have been out here when they discovered it and looked around and all that sort of stuff. But those are the fairly standard, just booted prints. And they've been careful not to disturb the best of the troll prints.
Sven, do these things move faster than us, or?
I'm glad you asked that question, Loker. What's the answer, Arlen?
Role playing.
If they're in a hurry, they probably could move faster than you. With a captive girl, that's sort of questionable. In the forest, which they definitely went like straight into the forest, it's going to be like, if you imagine a similar percentage difference, but everybody is moving slower, so it's less of a meaningful percentage.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Loker? What I've explained to you?
Indeed.
So does it look like they were hoofing it, or just like, haha, we got this girl, we're just gonna nonchalantly, they're not gonna come after us? I don't know.
They're probably
Based on like the stride.
they're probably hoofing it right here. The question is obviously once they get into the forest, if they think that they've escaped notice.
I have another question for Sven, since he seems to be the troll authority. Clearly,
sounds like where you need to register. That's where you need to register your trolls. I have a gray troll. I adopted him. He's a rescue troll. Can I? Sorry, go ahead.
So clearly, fighting 3 trolls might not end well. Is there anything that trolls might want in trade that we can talk through this if we don't need to kill them?
Do they gamble?
They do gamble. They are relentless collectors of shiny things. They love coins. They also are
indeed.
They also, like I said, they're kind of stupid. They fall for tricksy things often enough. And Sven, you know this. Loker, you surely also know all the various kind of folk songs of heroes who have played the game of riddles or cheated at dice, or who have even figured out how to sing a particularly beautiful song that lulled the troll to sleep and then slipped away from them.
Now you're talking my language.
There you go.
You don't worry about that sword there, Eamon. We've got a plan here, and I'll tap my
Sven's
loot.
a little bit of a gambler. He is.
Eamon's actually like, it's a good thing I didn't shave my head either. Have some ideas. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
All
What
right.
about is it possible to have Dada kind of like lurking up front, so that if we do stumble across these things, or will we like hear or smell them well before we stumble across them?
You will definitely, assuming that the wind is with you, you will definitely smell them before you come across them.
But it would make some sense for Dota to perhaps, like, once we have a sense of where they are,
Yeah.
it would make some sense for Dota for me to go on ahead. If the plan is to try to distract them or perhaps lull them into some sleep or trick them or somehow, I'd be well placed to sneak in, grab her, and get out before they notice.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can definitely kind of take the front and walk. You probably, once you get into the forest, you probably don't want to be too far ahead in case you take a wrong turn or something and get...
No, I'm not going to be splitting the party, don't worry.
But you can imagine you can be in that kind of loose column formation as you walk with at least, a couple yards in between each of you, and Dada probably even further ahead than that.
Okay, so we attempt to track them. Hopefully they are just as wise as they were out in the field and break a lot of branches as they pass.
Yeah. So that, why don't we take our mid-session break here?
Yeah.
It seems like it's a good time, and it's a good transition point.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a cat being very loud for her food anyway.
All right, back in a moment, folks.
Yep. trolls aren't petrified by sunlight in this world, are they?
No, or I am 90% certain that they aren't. And if they are, we're gonna retcon it.
I'm glad you asked that question, Eamon. That's my answer.
There might be like a kind of troll that is. I will check while we're waiting for Kevin. There might be like a stone troll or something.
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that, guys.
No worries.
Okay.
We're just making sure that the trolls don't turn to stone in sunlight. That's the sort of thing that it would be easy to miss in these books. You're expected to do a lot of reading to run this game, I will say.
You got to do your GM homework.
Yeah.
Got to do your GM homework, which is not necessarily a bad thing by any means, but it makes it easy to accidentally miss something and all of that. All right. So, you guys, following the troll tracks, step out into the forest that definitely deeper in, it would be called the Wild Heart of the Stormlands. It's very quickly, obviously, it's darker in the forest. It's a little cooler. It's not this kind of misty thing that'll be next morning, but it is a little eerie. I don't know how much time. None of you have any particular skill at wilderness survival or anything like that, so I don't think any of you have spent a ton of time out in forests and the wilds and all of that. Oh, do you need to move down?
Oh no, I just think I'm a dummy. I can just move my display. No, I'm good.
Cool. All right. Into the forest.
Okay.
And it's another, so you probably have 2 hours of daylight to make it. Lokar is not sprinting, but he's definitely moving faster than a comfortable walk. Everybody else at this point, you're probably at a walking pace. The troll tracks are not impossible to miss, but they're not hard to follow by any means, especially because these trolls don't seem to have taken any kind of, right, I said they're walking side by side through the forest, so even when one of them steps in an area that doesn't take tracks very well, another one will a couple of feet away. It's relatively easy to follow.
Maybe they were casing the place and they saw that the big tough warriors left and they don't think there's going to be any pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they may well have timed their attack for when the warriors left.
Lucky we showed up.
And
Indeed.
this is about when it's getting on towards evening. It's not really getting, well, it's in the forest, it's getting fairly dark, but it's not night by any means. When each of you starts to smell something that smells, it's sort of like the smell of cooking pork, but someone is not doing a very good job of cooking this, and it smells a little bit more like burning flesh than there's a sort of distinct side
Walker, what are you doing?
that this is maybe not a pig. It's a little bit different.
Okay.
Well,
Should
there's
we?
some weird stuff in the past, but what are you doing back there?
I pick up the pace.
Should we have Dota take a look and see what's up there?
Yeah,
That sounds like a good idea.
can do.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
yep.
So
I will stand against the tree and catch my breath.
yeah.
Phew!
I think you all probably walk forward a little bit more until you can see that there's definitely a firelight, and that's about when Aemond and Lokir and Sven sort of crouch down in the underbrush, and Dota can sneak up forward. Dota, why don't you roll us either camouflage and hiding or walking in shadows? Either of those seem.
Okay, I'm just trying to line up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's the same number either way, I think. So we'll
Okay,
do
well
walking in shadows.
Yeah.
Or nope, that's not it.
Finding and spotting is your number 16 for walking in shadows, and
It's 16 and 16, yeah.
okay, so you succeed. So you're able to sneakily get up to the point where you can see there is one big gray troll sitting with a something spit roasting over a fire.
Hmm.
There's
How big is the thing being spit roasted?
it's not fat like a pig is.
Great.
16-year-old girl size, I guess, is really what we're driving at.
Yeah, I
It's-
mean, I'm yeah.
So I don't think. Would any of you have asked about like Sola's build or anything like that?
No, I wouldn't have
No.
thought to.
No. We're not
Right.
really natural investigators.
Right? Maybe we assumed that she was, like, we said she was very beautiful. That, she'd be like a, the standard size and shape of a 16-year-old
Yeah.
attractive young woman.
Yeah. So it's
I mean, certainly
hard.
I'd be able to tell if it's maybe I'm thinking like a human is going to be a certain kind of general size anyway.
Yeah, well, also, I mean, the shape, too, right? Like, it's not the shape of the way the limbs are placed on the torso and stuff would be different from a deer or a wild boar or something like that.
So it's not a pig, it's not a deer, it's not a boar. The longer you look at it, the more certain you are that this is something humanoid. Whether it's the size and shape of the girl is sort of up to doubt. You notice as you watch, you kind of glance over and see there's only this one troll, and then there's another one that comes out of the forest. But it's not a gray troll. It is actually a forest troll. I'm going to show that to you guys. Forest trolls are quite small. You can see, I mean, it's a fairly big rabbit, but the forest trolls are not too big.
Arlen, are forest trolls smarter at all than gray?
Not really.
Okay. I was wondering if maybe they had a ringleader, like someone organized these dumb gray trolls, was my thought.
Certainly. So, trolls are a sentient species in Trudvang. And so they have a certain level of the kind of variety among sentient species. So there definitely probably are, very smart and charismatic forest trolls. There just aren't many of them. Their bell curve doesn't lie in that direction. But
Are they cannibalistic? Like, would they eat their own?
trolls?
Yeah.
Definitely. They would eat other trollkin.
Okay. Huh. I wish we had asked whether or not there were any other people missing. I don't know whether they would have known if if the peasants, if it would have been reported or not, but
It's a good thought, Loker. Next time we're on the job, we'll make a list of these better questions.
it's definitely, yes. We're usually better the second time round.
Indeed.
So
Including with your porridge.
Well, there's There's only 2 of them, so maybe.
Oh,
But there's
well,
two-
that's kind of what I'm wondering. Like, based on the tracks we had seen, were the tracks? I'd assume they were fairly consistent size between the 3 pairs of tracks, right? Or not?
Yeah, there are definitely 3 gray trolls that are all fairly regular sized gray trolls.
So
And there's probably
Where's my friend?
yeah.
So I know Dota's not back yet, but Sven will subsequently comment when he is. So we're up to 4 trolls.
No, at that point, I'll make my way back if I can't tell
Jeez.
where the other one is.
Our number of trolls are going the wrong direction.
At least we outnumbered them before.
And the tracks lead into this camp.
Tracks definitely lead, if not into the camp, very close to it. Dota can't really get like close enough to confirm if the tracks lead right to this gray troll or if they lead
And I
just in
didn't
that direction.
see, like, I didn't have any sense of where, if she's there with them, or was there like a structure that maybe they could have kept someone in?
There's no real structure. There's not like a lean-to, or even like it's not really that hilly at this part. It's sort of just forest. So if Sola is here, she's probably not among the living anymore, right? That's what's going through your mind right now. This
Let's confront them. Maybe the 3 trolls. Maybe the 3 trolls that were tracking bypassed these people or said hi and then took
Well, I
off.
certainly hope so, because if not, then I saw Sola, and you know.
Do I know if gray trolls are magical at all? Is that a factor at all? Could that be any sort of?
they have this sort of not magic in the sense of casting, but that kind of innate, slightly uncanny qualities to them and stuff. Like the way that they just always, no matter how much they wash, they smell terrible and all that sort of stuff. But gray trolls don't like cast spells or anything like that.
Okay.
Damon's going to take some action, but I'm not going to. But I'm gonna go in there and ask these trolls questions.
Yep.
I'm not gonna go in there. I'm gonna have my weapons drawn, but not armed, like down, if that makes sense. Are you guys okay with that? You could back me up. Hey, if I get eaten, then
we all get eaten?
no, you guys can run. At least Loker has a bow and can cover me.
I like your call to action, Eamon. I would only say that it just seems too much of a coincidence that we've stumbled across that the very tracks we're following take us to trolls not involved. It just doesn't seem possible, does it?
No.
Well, maybe they know something. That's why I'm gonna go ask questions.
I'm just afraid that they definitely know something, and
Well, if they know something, then vengeance for poor princess.
as long as the other 2 trolls don't come out of the woods at the same time. But
Well.
very well, you're the warrior.
Right, so I'm gonna do that, Arlen. I'm gonna draw weapon, get shield ready, but not go in there like I'm gonna walk in there, call out to the trolls.
I'll sheepishly follow behind.
Yeah, Sven's in the same category here.
The sword is not up, ready to fight, but kind of down. And I say, we excuse as I interrupt your dinner. Try to get close to Caesar.
I'm gonna just keep hiding, just as a like, if they don't know where I am and if this goes foul, then I'm in a position to maybe help out.
Yeah, of course.
Excuse me, good trolls, as I interrupt your dinner. We are tracking someone important, an important human. You may or may not be involved. I hope you are not. I'm gonna go in there in the open like that.
So the big troll turns around, looks down at the spit, and you realize this spit is like it's a spear or something like that. He doesn't actually pick up the spear to take it off the fire, but he definitely puts a hand on it. The other one is the forest troll, the small troll. Grabs you. As soon as she talks, you can tell that this is a female forest troll. Has a little forest troll sized spear, says, you attack us in our woods.
I'm not attacking. My sword is down. I'm just asking questions. What are you cooking?
So the forest troll says, a pig. It's not a pig.
Yeah.
Can I step to a position where I can see it better, or can any of these guys move around to see it better?
So if you try to step, the gray troll is going to try to step in between you and the actual thing roasting on the fire. But definitely, if you step, Dada, who is in the shadows, has a pretty good straight on view. It's not a pig. You're starting to think it's probably not the girl, though.
Why is that?
Okay.
It's definitely a humanoid shape, but there's something about like the spine or the overcurl or something like that. You're starting to wonder if certainly doesn't look like what you would expect the torso of a beautiful young girl to look like after it had been prepared for spit roasting.
So perhaps a human, but not her.
Is there any leftovers around, or any other things like kicking around this camp? Any detritus or like clothes that are ripped, or leftover limbs, for that matter?
Nothing really like that. There's a couple of kind of implements, like a pickaxe that's forest troll sized against one of the trees. And there's maybe even like a sort of sack by it. But forest trolls, they don't really... One of the things that is that forest trolls, they live in the forest and all that sort of stuff. Especially as a dwarf, that it's goblins who dig down in the earth and things like that.
Oh, okay. Would this thing be goblin-sized, the torso?
Probably the right size for a goblin.
I'm going to ask another question. You guys are done asking observation.
Okay.
So I'm going to go again. I apologize for interrupting your dinner. It smells lovely. We are looking for 3 trolls who had a human girl. We have no qualm with you, especially if you help us and direct us to these 3 trolls that are similar in size to you, madam, or sir. I don't know troll gender. As I motion at the cook, but not with my sword, with my spear, kind of. Sword is still tipped down.
So the forest troll is still kind of spear up. It looks a little comical, as small as it is, and is kind of making sort of cackling noises. The big gray troll sort of looks back and looks at you and says, we haven't seen any trolls with any people, but leave us be in the forest, and we will leave you be.
Is an insight roll possible here for veracity?
Let me look and see.
And not to mention, is it in there? So does cunning lead them to lying, or are they too dumb for that? Would they just more likely, is lying in their repertoire? A gray troll's repertoire?
They definitely could lie.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. They're kind of in that category where they could lie. They just don't very often because they're not that type of manipulative.
I mean, considering how key the question was, though, I'll still try to, discern if they were lying.
You don't really think that he's lying. He looks almost embarrassed, if you had to guess.
Interesting.
The small one is still cackling and shouting nonsense and has the spear ready. And
is the spear
well,
like?
we tracked them to here though, right?
yeah, they definitely passed this way.
So I tell them, I do not mean to insult, but I don't say we. I say I've tracked them here. So which way would they have gone?
So the big one says,
I'm surprised that you would have missed them.
So as you got closer, you realized the tracks, they don't go right through the center of camp. They kind of veer off a little bit. They could definitely come back around here. But the tracks that you were following, they're not leading directly to this camp. They're a couple of feet over. And the big gray troll, he sort of shakes his head, and he says, no more. We don't know about... We only arrived here just less than an hour ago and set up camp. We don't know about any gray trolls, any other trolls in the woods. We just want... Please leave us alone. And you can tell that sense of embarrassment. It's more palpable now that kind of the longer you guys are here, he's really.
Why is he embarrassed? Sorry, I might have missed.
Yeah, I don't.
Eamon had asked directly, "Have you seen trolls with a girl?" And he was denying it. And when he denied it, he was saying it with embarrassment that no, we haven't.
So maybe he's like, "Oh, these trolls are at it again. How could they do this?"
Oh, is that what the read is?
Maybe. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I
Okay.
mean, right? I guess if you think, if trolls start abducting human women, and then those badass warriors get wind of it, they're going to start purging trolls from the forest, right?
I would think he'd be scared rather than embarrassed, though.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Yeah. So Lokar, I think you kind of think about that for a second.
You know, I'll say. So listen. I'm sorry, friend.
Go ahead.
Friend, you seem quite cagey with respect to your kin who've come by with a princess. Is there something you want to just tell us? Then we'll be on our way. What is it that troubles you? Unload your burden with us. Let us carry it with us as we head off.
So the forest troll sort of turns the spear towards you and is sort of doing the pokey thing and the cackling thing, and then says, "Ha! We got Grishnash, and he's on the spear."
Oh, would they be embarrassed that they're eating one of their own?
One of them is embarrassed about it. The other one is not. The
I
troll
see.
doesn't give a shit. The gray troll is kind of like, and you
Oh,
might
okay.
imagine it doesn't look like, you don't see like signs of a struggle or anything
Sure.
like that. This gray troll might have been just traveling with two other trolls and decided to kill and eat one of them.
Okay.
Wow.
So I'll say, you know, I'll put my hands up with the one that's pointing the spear at me. I'm sorry. Take care, friend. We mean no harm here. What's your name then? Forest troll.
Mine is Tiny Tangle.
Tiny Tangle, aye. And big man? What's your name?
He sort of grumbles and looks down, and he barely gets it out. Yite.
Yite.
Y-E.
So, Yite, there's no need to be embarrassed about this. We clearly, you know, it's many leagues that you've traveled and worked up a fearsome appetite. I happen to know a wee bit about cooking myself, and I tell you, you know, it doesn't look like that. That seems like a wee bit to eat for a man or a troll as big as you. You know, if you find yourself with a wee bit of hunger pangs later tonight, you know what goes lovely with Grishnak? He's a wee bit of Tiny Tangle. Anyway, thanks for your help.
All right. I guess I kind of move back into the forest. All right. I will.
Yeah.
And then I say, it looks like the getting a closer look at those tracks in the camp, it looks like the trolls were here, and then they decided to
You know,
search the camp.
can I make a cooking check to try and make us like a suggestion about how to season Tiny Tangle and just leave so it does actually get his mind thinking about it? My cooking's like a 16. I mean, I did roll 20 last time, but
I think sure, why not?
all right. See here, no modifier. 10. There we go.
Yeah.
So I'll you know, perhaps with a bit of you can find those forest mushrooms will roast up really nicely with him, and rub a bit of that bark on there too, the one with the white colouring on the outside. It'll give it just a wee bit of sharpness.
Sven whispers, "Okay, don't overdo it, Loker."
Okay,
So
if you're gonna spread butter, spread it thick.
Okay. He's like pulling back the tunic of Loker. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Ite, Tiny Tangle was sort of shocked by what you said about eating her. Ite, he's like a broken troll at this point. He's barely able to whisper out, "Please leave."
All right, big
Right.
man. Now you're
Try to
certainly
pick up the
you did
trail.
not see the other trolls.
Yeah.
No.
No.
All right. Stay clear of that camp, will you? Once we get this princess back, we don't want to have to come back for you.
Oh, Loker with the tough talk. I like it.
Yeah, we got Eamon's quite big and tough. Look at him.
Well, I
Yeah,
guess
So
we
you guys,
back to the track,
Eamon-
eh?
Eamon found where the troll tracks lead, and they definitely lead past the camp. They lead pretty close, but they're not. It's not like it was a direct line once you got closer. Eamon is able to lead you on. You probably have a good half an hour or more of walking you before it gets really too dark to be consistent about finding the tracks. And I think all of you, except maybe Lokir, who's developing a bit of a streak of
Bravado.
something like that. I think all of you probably want to get away from the smell of cooking goblin.
Well, let's just make a little distance before it's pitch dark between us and them, eh?
Indeed.
Yeah. So make some distance. Forest is starting to get a little bit hillier, but you're able to go. You probably find sort of the top of a low hill where there's maybe a shallow depression for a campfire that wouldn't necessarily be seen from that far away. You can all wrap up in your cloaks or lay out bedrolls. I don't think any of you are carrying like full tents or anything. Because you're not planning on being out here for if you were going to like be out in the wilds for months, you would definitely want to be carrying tents and you'd be hunting and all that sort of stuff. But I think you're hoping that you can run these trolls down before that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever unpleasantness goes on in your minds overnight, thinking about a troll cooking and eating a goblin, it's gone in the morning.
Sitting pretty well in my mind.
Yeah, so the forest is fairly misty in the morning, and that's kind of an unusual, or it's not unusual, but it is significant. The peoples of Trudvang, for the most part, believe that the fog and mist is tied to their deities. For the Stormlanders, this is Stormy, the Allfather, and Dora, since you're a half-elf, but you were brought up in the Stormlands, this is probably Stormy for you too. There are other gods in the Pantheon, but he's kind of the biggest and the strongest one. For Lokir, it's a little bit different. The Dwarves have what is more like a ancestor worship type thing. But they have a similar belief in the idea that the mists and kind of half-light eeriness of the fog has something to do with a connection to their religion. So you'll have to decide whether that counts as an auspicious start to the day or not. It's going to make tracking the trolls a little bit harder, but again, these trolls are not really, they're definitely moving more slowly than they were out in the fields. You can tell that the feet aren't as far apart. They're, basically walking. Every once in a while you see maybe a little slip of, or you probably have only seen one, maybe two little bits of fabric caught like in a thorn or something like that. But
did you say they're walking 3 abreast?
3 abreast as best they can.
Yeah, so this has got, I mean, we've got to be, with these stupid things clearing the path for us, it's got to be a little bit easier for us to get by with the low.
Yeah, it's definitely not, it's not too hard for you to follow the trail by any means.
I thought I'd hold up too, just because the dwarves are so distinct in this. Like, that's how squat they are.
Yep.
So when I'm, I'm going to run to keep up with you guys, it is really a challenge.
We know you're up to it.
When I picture them moving kind of like a Muppet as well, too, because they're so stocky, right? They kind of do the whoa, 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 as they're moving.
Probably a little, like, yeah.
Sven's going to get up at the very first light to be scratching on a parchment. They can recording his experiences and add to his knowledge. Trolls, he doesn't come across trolls every day.
I think there's probably at one point where Loker absent-mindedly started whistling, and then Carl, you can correct me if I'm wrong in this, but met Eamon's look and was kind of like, and stopped immediately.
All right. We follow these guys. Hopefully, we can find them. I mean, this is like 3 days. This is the 3rd day that the poor girl's been out in the
second day, third day since we left. What's his name's house?
Yeah, but it's only the 2nd day in the woods, the morning of the 2nd day.
But the girl's been here. The girl's been here like one more night than we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And winter's coming too, so let's.
Yep. Yeah. She was probably in something like a nightgown when she got taken, and probably does not have shoes, and there's definitely concerns on your mind about her survivability in the forest. But that's not what interrupts your walking. What does is the sound of the sort of clanking and chipping of pickaxes on rock.
Ooh. Is that's unusual to find in these?
These are largely uninhabited by things other than
goblins,
monsters.
So it'll be goblins. Yeah. Dota, you want to take a peek and see if it confirms what we're thinking here?
Yeah.
Goblin mine.
I'll try to sneak up ahead.
If you're able as well to see if the tracks veer off again too, because if we don't need to deal with goblins, our time would be better spent trying to catch the trolls.
Right. Arlen, do you think would this be camouflage and hiding, or is this more finding and spotting?
I think it depends on how long you want to take with regard to what you're doing. Like, if you're going really carefully and you really don't want to be seen, then camouflage and hiding. If you're just kind of like, I'm going to do my best, but I'm going to get in and get out, then...
Okay, we'll go camouflage and hiding, I think.
Yeah.
So we don't know what it is yet. Hey.
Oh, no.
Nope, wait, nope, that's my D&D brain.
So, this is a good time to remember one of the things you can do with Raud is spend it to have a success on a failed check.
Right.
When it would have a bad consequence.
Yeah. You only have one, Dota. It's Loker who has a bunch.
I got 7, yeah.
Whoa.
Gee.
Hey, I don't want to say that fortune favors the dwarves, but...
I think there was a 7. I think there was a payoff involved with 7. Holy smokes!
Wow.
He gets a bonus from his charisma, and he rolled a 6. So
Yep.
Nice.
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
I was ready for 3, 7. Jeez.
Yeah, I think I don't know that this is all that vital. I know it's a one shot, but
Yeah, no, it's great to have character failure to drive the story forward in addition to success.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess I go traipsing along.
You go traipsing along, and it's as much a surprise to you as perhaps anything when you sort of step out of a bush, thinking that you're going to run across to another piece of cover or something like that, and you hear a dwarf voice shout, "Halt!"
Do I hear that too?
You probably hear. I think the dwarf says it first in Dwarven and then repeats it in Vrock,
Futhark.
and you definitely recognize that he says it's Futhark is the Dwarven language, and you definitely recognize the sound of your people's language when you hear it.
I will stop.
Now, are like the dwarves sort of like come in all stripes, where like some could be malicious, some could be good, should we be concerned about finding these guys in the middle of nowhere, or would this be kind of like, hey, fellow dwarves?
For you, this is probably mostly like, hey, fellow dwarves. Dwarves are, I think, more monocultural than a lot of the other peoples of Trudvang.
Okay.
And most of them, there's a sort of, probably a sort of kinship in being a dwarf who does not live in the dwarf homeland, basically, that you sort of naturally, like a sense that, if something happened, they would stick up for you and you would stick up for them. Maybe not to the absolute ends of the earth, but your
is there traditionally antipathy between elves and dwarves in the setting too?
I do not believe so.
Okay.
So we're going to say no. Not any more than there is necessarily between anybody and anybody, which is to say that this is a world where there isn't that much kind of cosmopolitanism and all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
So that kind of modern day tolerance isn't quite as to be expected.
Yeah. So maybe what I'll do then is, the reason I ask is because I'm picturing like if Walker hears that it's dwarves and he knows that the thing that they've stumbled across is going to be an elf or half elf. I want to make sure there's not violence, so I'll just be like, I'll shout out in Futhark, "Friends, we're friends!" And kind of try and make my way, up to join Doda wherever she is.
What are Aemon and Sven doing?
Well, Loker thinks they're friends. He's going to move forward as well. Not with any weapons drawn, not hostile.
And I think Sven, though not knowing Dwarven, has enough of an academic background that he probably recognizes Dwarven when he hears it, is my guess. Like, that's probably Dwarven, that kind of thing, even though he doesn't know what was said. And which probably enheartens him slightly, considering we have a dwarf, and it's not trollish, which would be worse.
Yeah. So
he tries to act brave poorly and moves forward. Doesn't want to be left behind in any case. So yeah, scrambles ahead.
Yeah. So Dada, the one in front of you, fairly big for a dwarf, has a great big beard that's about half silvery. Has a big pickaxe across both hands. Has like work clothes, not armor or anything, and basically is sort of standing there. He's not like ready to attack you or anything, but he's definitely got his pickaxe between you and him. And then he hears Loker, and he sort of turns and makes this sort of weird face, and he says in Vrock, the sort of common tongue for this place, "Are you traveling with a dwarf?"
I am.
Indeed, they have that fortune, friend.
Yeah, so Lokar, this is probably about when you come over a rise. You can see there's this a dwarf with a pickaxe standing in front of Dota, who clearly got the drop on Dota, because Dota does not have hand on short sword or anything like that.
Yeah. So I'm picturing that the way that you've described dwarves as being a little more reserved and more stoic and whatnot. Loker's a bit of an outlier anyway, because he's a bard and he likes going out, and he also likes being around other things. On top of that, he's probably really excited to see them, so he's probably even more off-putting to the dwarves than he normally would be. It's a like hug, kiss on the lips kind of thing when you're just like, what the fuck? This is where you need to be. This is where you are right now. Like, come on. So he comes forward. Hello, friends. What are you doing out here? What brings you so far outside? There's not a dwarf near here. Not that I'm aware of. Oh, so far out. Have you seen trolls? We've been looking for trolls. Well, we found some trolls. We're looking for other trolls. Have you any trolls? Have you seen trolls?
So this dwarf, who does not give you his name or anything, he sort of, once he sees that you've got a dwarf, he's willing to turn his back on you guys, but he just says, come with me, and sort of marches off into the forest.
Okay.
A little bit uphill.
He turns around and I'll turn to them like, my people are a few words. Let's go. Sven, Aemond, come on. We're fine.
Sven shrugs. He'll follow.
Yeah.
So you go, and it's 5 minutes of walking before you get to a
single dwarf out there picking away.
not a single dwarf. There are you can hear once you focus on it. It stopped for a minute, but as you start walking again, that sound of pickaxes is continuing.
Can we see what they're digging for, or like is it a bare rock face that they're digging into?
Yeah,
or?
so you guys come out to a sort of clearing, and on one side of the clearing is a hill that has been cut into by these dwarves.
Ooh, it's quite the work. Say, friend, I did not catch your name. I'm Loker. Do I have any other kind of appellation that I would use, or?
So now this is when you need to decide if Loker is your real name or is it the name that you just give out to people. Because for the dwarves, they are the sort that don't see anything wrong with giving humans a fake name. Giving dwarves a fake name is a little iffy, especially if you're in the homeland. But giving humans a fake name is like haggling at the marketplace.
He is what you do. At core a dwarf, so I imagine he gives everyone a fake name. What would, is there something in the player's handbook here that would give me an idea what dwarven name, or do I just want to? There
isn't really, but we don't have to know what your
yeah. So you know what I'll do then? I'll say, sorry, friend, and I'll step forward and kind of like whisper something towards him.
Yeah. And he, presumably this includes, it's not just a single moniker, but it's your kind of personal name and your clan name.
Absolutely.
And he definitely, you can tell that he recognizes the clan name. He probably doesn't know you at all.
Yeah.
But the dwarves are a clannish
Steve?
People, and he leans in and whispers back his name, and then he says in Brock to the whole group, my name is Njordir.
Njordir. Njordir is quite the impressive operation you have going here. Are you the head of this then?
So he kind of, you can tell you've hit a sweet spot with him, complimenting him on this, a sort of, almost bashful kind of, well, yes, I do lead these dwarves. But what on earth are the four of you doing out in these woods?
Trolls. Troll made off with a princess of some kind, and that one, and he gestures back to Aemond, he's going to find him, and we're being paid for coming along. You haven't seen any trolls, have you?
We've fought off forest trolls, certainly.
No, we're looking for the bigger ones. 3, to be precise. Did you hear anything?
Three gray trolls, and he sort of turns and he barks out in Dwarven, anyone seen 3 gray trolls? And one of the miners kind of turns around, just raises a hand, and then goes immediately back to work.
I know you're busy here, Njordir, but might we speak to that one?
So he, again, Njordir turns and he barks out a Dwarven name. Again, he does it in Dwarven, so this is probably the true name of this particular dwarf. Dwarf takes his pickaxe and sets it down, walks over to you guys, sort of dusting himself off.
I'll do the same kind of whispered introduction, like a low thing, and then introduce who these people are.
He's not nearly as cagey about it. He, in Futhark, says his kind of real name to you quietly, but not broadcasting to everybody, but not whispered in the ear.
Sure.
And then he introduces himself to everybody else with a different name in Vrock.
So we don't need to roleplay through, but I'll try and get out of him, like, what did he see? And then I'll if he does speak Vrock, I'll let him do it. But if he only speaks in Futhark, I'll translate for the rest as to what he saw.
So he's got pretty broken Vrock, so he probably starts in Vrock and then reverts to Futhark about halfway through.
Okay.
But he tells you that yes, he saw 3 trolls and someone in blue with them. And
was the person in blue walking or carried?
Carried?
Was she bigger
Probably. Maybe in a sack?
Oh, aye. 3 of them, you say. Do you know what direction they were heading? And how long ago?
He points in the direction and says, oh, it wasn't too long ago. It was maybe late. Maybe in the wee hours. When was it? And he sort of thinks for a second and he says, it was in the wee hours of the morning.
Indeed. Then, I thank you, friend. You're certain, he already asked everyone who was here whether they saw this. Was the only guy who spotted them?
Yeah, he's the only one who volunteered. The other ones, dwarves are, they can be selfish with all sorts of different things, including their attention.
Yep.
And so entirely possible that somebody else saw it and just didn't volunteer because they don't care.
So you know what I'll do then is I will make kind of a big production out of giving this guy a coin of some kind or something like that. Just to try and, like, if there is anyone else who is inclined to, who has seen something, who might have been reluctant to share before, I know how my people are. I'll just make it sure that it's clear to them, like, hey, there's coin in it if you share the information. I wouldn't want to insult them by insisting there's a reward, but I mean, if they did see and they forgot, this gives them away.
So you give him a coin. He kind of grins and, almost playing along, sort of bites it to test it, which is that's not a slight upon you at all. That's just the way dwarves are.
Yep.
Nobody else volunteers anything, but 1 or 2 of them you can hear are sort of chuckling at their work. They probably think you're a bit of a black sheep among the dwarves, like we established.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Would give you that impression.
Yep.
But if Njordir will say you're chasing these trolls.
Oh, indeed. Well, that one there, and he points back at Eamon. He's chasing the troll. We're coming along to get paid.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, kinsman. And he switches to Vrock, and his Vrock is much better than the miner's Vrock. And he says, and I wish all of you good luck. Find your missing person in blue, and dwarves are not super friendly with any type of troll. Nobody is super friendly with the trolls, but the dwarves, they're grudge holders. So he's definitely, there's an element of, and if you kill the trolls, we'll be happy about that too.
Indeed.
Do they want to help?
They are. Are you asking them if they want help?
I asked Lokar to say. I say that to Lokar. I don't know I don't know dwarven etiquette.
Yeah, so I'll say, oh, aye, indeed, and I'll switch to Futhark, and I'm like, he seems to think that all of us are warriors. Do any of you want to come along too? The Lord's only paying 30 silver.
And he, Norder kind of looks around and says, I think we'll have to stay busy here for now.
Indeed. I wish you nothing but luck and riches here. Thank you for your time. So I'll turn back and say, oh, Aemond, unfortunately they had to refuse. They seemed confident that you had it well in hand, eh?
Interesting. All right.
So, and I'll translate for them what what he said about the 3 trolls and the direction that they were going. So I'll say, so should we off then? What time of day is it now? Like how many hours behind do we think we are?
You're probably mid-morning, but if they were traveling at night, they probably stopped in the morning.
Oh, so heck, let's beat feet.
You're probably pretty close.
Let's go.
And then, you guys can start. You're following the trail. You're probably all have a bit of a spring in your step, realizing how close you are to these trolls.
I've been meaning to speak to Dota about that spring in the step. Perhaps a wee bit less of the spring when you're sneaking in, eh?
All right, dwarf.
Oh, clearly not my wheelhouse, but I thought I might mention it.
Oh, here we go. The lectures by Loker. Here we go.
Not at all, not at all. But since you brought it up, and that just continues. So
You're definitely not at all.
yeah. Hey, we're at the proper height.
Yeah. So you guys, it's about mid-afternoon when you follow the tracks up to if the dwarves had been working on, you can imagine something like the doors of Durin at Moria or something like they're working on fine craftsmanship. This is the entrance to a barely worked cave, and the tracks go right into the side of this hill.
Do we have any sense of how far this cave would go? Like, is it a dead end cave thing, or do we think this is like a cavern complex that would lead in somewhere?
I think so. Loker, you are a dwarf, so I think if you sort of go up towards the entrance and you kind of sniff the air and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And you have that sort of dwarven sixth sense for the difference between worked stone and natural stone. You can tell that this was dug out by someone to some degree. They are not very good at digging. They're probably about dwarf size, but this is not the way dwarves build homes.
Goblins. Goblins? Would that be a right?
Goblins is probably
right
on
conclusion?
your mind.
Ugh. I'm wishing I had not smelled that cave then.
Yeah.
You smell
Yeah, and
goblins,
now that
do you?
you kind of sniff again, and the particular horrible scent of trolls, there's gray troll smell in here too.
Okay.
So
I share with
getting
you.
ready, just walking in there and say, "Give us back the girl," or how do we do this? That's what Eamon would do. But
Yeah, then hey, you.
nobody suggestion.
Let's have Dota sneak in and see what he sees.
As long as she doesn't mess up like last time.
I have confidence in you, Dota.
Oh yeah, well, maybe that's a better idea. If Dota can get in there and sneak the girl out.
Is there anything that we know about goblin caves, or anything like trolls that we need to caution her against for going in, like traps or unstable surfaces or things like that that we could like tell her, like, hey, just be careful with this?
Traps, no. Unstable surfaces, probably. And I think more generally, goblins are cowardly, but there is something of a risk depending on how many goblins and how many trolls are in here if one person alone is not nearly as intimidating as 4. And that's partly tying into the way that this system handles multiple combatants, which is you're in serious trouble if you're outnumbered.
Okay.
So it's up to you if you want to sneak in there or if you want us to just all go in.
I mean, yeah,
Don't take any chances, but just a little peek.
yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna go. Well, I don't plan on going and barging in there again. But I'll try to.
Now, is there any issue with visibility in the cave?
For you and Dota, not so much.
Great.
For Sven and Aemond, there's probably, well, so you probably have, is as part of your pack, a torch or two. You might be able to see well enough to, you'd have trouble fighting in the darkness if you didn't have a torch, but you could probably see well enough to walk.
If Dota can get in there, if she wants me to go with her, I don't think I'm particularly stealthy.
No, you're not particularly stealthy.
No, I'll stub my toe and curse out loud. But Dota, if Dota can see in there, then we don't have to worry about like a torch going in, right? So,
yeah,
if you're willing to do that, Dota, that I've never, there's an old dwarven saying about there never being a bad thing to look before you step.
We the Differ have a very similar saying.
Did you need me to write that down for you? No?
No? I think okay. I got it.
Okay, Loker, okay, let the man be, or let the woman be. Let the woman be.
Sven, you need those eyes checked. Look at her.
Wait till you see me in the dark cave. It's not going to be pretty.
Hopefully they're not torturing the Magnate's daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't hear anything, do we?
Well, he's
not
trying
at
to
this point.
get
You don't really hear anything at the entrance.
So Dota, I suppose it's your show here.
Yep. So yeah, I will try to make my way inside very slowly and carefully, and hopefully quietly. Assuming it would be camouflage and hiding or walking in shadows again.
Yeah, I think either of those, probably walking in shadows.
Okay.
At this point,
Sounds good.
I'm not going to have you roll anything until you get to the point where you might be discovered.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
Well, then I will enter.
Yeah.
I might. I don't know that I'll draw any weapon quite yet. So I guess I'll just kind of carefully. I'm going to be trying to obviously watch my step, but I'm going to stick to the walls, kind of putting even though visibly I'm all right. I might just be keeping my hands mostly to actually see if I can catch any like signs of recent travel, any debris that's the trolls might have dropped. Scratches or signs that there's a lot of traffic, maybe to try to get a sense of, or not trolls, goblins. Can I sense like how frequently this Tuntless Cave is traveled, to give me a sense of like the kind of numbers I might be looking at?
So you see there's sort of muddy footprints from, the cave is narrow enough that the trolls have finally had to walk in single file.
Okay. Yeah.
So you see the sort of muddy footprints of the gray trolls that you've been following. You don't really see a whole lot of other foot traffic, it looks like. I don't think you can really gain anything about, except maybe that this might not be the only entrance, possibly, if they go out a different way and they're traveling out, or if they just stay inside most of the time.
What does it smell like as I make my way in? Other than, I'm assuming there's some rather obvious putrid kind of smell.
Yeah, it's getting worse, and as you get to a sort of fork, and you can smell the distinctly unpleasant smell. It splits into it's a four-way crossing. So you got ahead of you, to the left, and to the right.
Mm.
To the right smells like troll shit, and it's awful.
Great.
To the front of you, you can't smell anything over the troll shit, and the same goes for the left.
Okay. I mean, it's a fairly fairly obvious. I will go to the right.
So you go to the right, and again, you pass. It's getting worse and worse. This, if you had to guess, the room that you got into is like their latrines or something. It's, it's the bathroom. There's only one exit, and it's got kind of a hanging curtain over it that you imagine blocks some of the smell.
Not very much.
No. What I mean is, you're in the room. There's a hanging curtain on the other side, and you imagine that is to block the smell from going deeper into the cave.
Okay. Well, I'll work my way up to that shroud, the curtain, and try to. Well, actually, can I look and see? Is there any sort of hint of a light anywhere? Particularly one that would like illuminate this screen and make a shadow if I go up to it.
No, it's probably like I said, like a curtain. It's probably more like animal hides, so it's thick enough that it doesn't matter. But there's not really. There might be some. Let's say there's some like phosphorescent fungus or something like that in the bioluminescent.
But nothing that'll. I'm not going to cast a shadow if I walk up.
Yeah, you're not gonna. Nobody on the other side is gonna see you until you open it up.
Okay, so I'll go up to it, and I will very, very slowly and carefully, like, just peel it back by like an inch, and try to look on the other side to see anything to be seen.
There's a couple more feet of cave, and then there's another split.
Okay, I might pull my glass out now. Maybe use it to slowly move the offending curtain out of my way, and keep going. You said there's two pathways?
Yeah, there's two pathways, one to the right, one to the left.
Does one smell better than the other one?
The one to the right smells kind of eerily like fresh air.
I'm not going to go that way.
Yeah.
So I'll go the other way.
Yeah, so you go to the left, and then I'm going to need you to roll Walking in Shadows.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
Nope, it's a dog.
All right, and then we are going to do... You only succeeded by 2, unfortunately, so we're going to do a contested roll to see what this thing that might discover you knows. I think. Let me double check to make sure that... Yeah, let's check. But he doesn't have very good odds. No, he failed. So you come to the edge of the largest chamber that you've seen so far, and you can see in, and you're kind of taking in all of it at once. At one end of the chamber, there is a roughly hewn, very crappily made, essentially a throne, and there is a troll sitting on, not the one I want to show to players. A great big gray troll sitting on said throne. He even has a sort of crown. What the picture doesn't show is that those other ones around him, they're not there. It's just the one in the middle. And he looks almost like he's sort of half asleep and sniffing the air. Great. The other side of this large chamber, there's a table with a couple of chairs at it, or more like stools than chairs. So, Rough Wrap, another smaller gray troll. So this big troll is Cobble Ring. obviously Dada doesn't know that, but we'll call him Calwaring, the king of the Grey Trolls. Rough Rap, his son, is sitting at the table playing dice with Sola. And she sort of turns and unless you do something really quickly, she is going to, you have to guess, make well, like, if she sees you, is she going to gasp? Is she going to scream? Is she not going to do anything because she's a cool customer? You don't know. What are you going to do?
Very suddenly, extremely conscious of being here alone. I'm going to back out of here.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have what we should have done is arranged that if Doda's not back in 5 minutes, come after me. We didn't do that, so they're still waiting.
We're not going anywhere out here.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to sneak back out of here and go get them.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can follow your path back. I think you probably put 2 and 2 together that when you move the animal hides, that latrine smell carries into the throne room. That's why they're up there, and that's probably what Cobblering was smelling.
Right.
Because it's just a horrific stink.
Right. Do I think about that before or after I make it back to the room, to the latrine?
You probably think about that as soon as you're standing in front and thinking, I have to go through here to get back to my friends.
I'm gonna lay down on the ground, full prone position, and because the curtain comes how is it falling onto the floor and rolling into a little pile, or is it just kind of skirting the ground like this?
Yeah, just skirting.
So if I go down in prone position, I'll do a little on my belly crawl.
Yeah,
it'll slow me down, but hopefully reduce the amount by which I disturb the curtain.
Absolutely.
So
a prone crawl, and then nothing in particular happens on the rest of the way out. Obviously, you can remember the way to go out. You get back to the group. What do you say to them?
Well, I found the girl.
Great.
And our big friends.
So the girl lives?
She lives.
Wait, did you find all 3?
No, I saw 2. And I'm not sure that one of them is one of the ones we've been following. There's one sitting on a throne, or there's one sitting on a seat with something on his head. He seems rather large. Larger than the one that was at the table, but I don't know where the third is, assuming 3. But the weird thing, Sola, or actually I shouldn't assume this. Arlen, I saw her for a brief second. She was playing dice, but if she was playing dice, was she restrained in any way?
Not restrained. She is like a 16-year-old girl next to an 8-foot-tall gray troll, so she started something.
Need to be.
But not restrained. They seem to have gotten somehow. You have no idea where. They have a different dress for her. That blue dress that you've been seeing scraps of fabric of is not what she's wearing. She's got on something that looks like it was almost certainly stolen, and is a little worse for wear, but it's better off than the dress that she was traveling in. So
the third question, I'll try to make it quick, but in this one I may not be able to have ascertained, given how very quickly I got back out of there. But what did I get any sense at all about her state of mind? Did she look calm? Did she look tense? Did she look like she was a spring ready to go? Or
she definitely looked pretty tense. Okay. I think that's probably why you backed out before letting her see you,
right?
Because you're worried that she would gasp or scream or something like that.
Okay, so I'll relay this. She looks to be scared and confused and not knowing what to do. Quite understandably. it's a bit of a tricky way in. Got to walk through some literal shit.
Hmm.
And we'll want to be slow and quiet about it if we want to get the drop on him. But I'm worried about the fact that I can't see the third one.
And
Yeah.
did you say the big one was sitting on a throne?
Well, that's subjective. He's sitting on a seat against the wall, but it had a certain kind of air about it that made it look like it was rather self-important.
And something sat on its head, or with some object.
Yeah, there was something. He had something. He was wearing something on his head. It didn't. I didn't get a very close look. It was across a room and it was dark.
We're not wrong that there were the tracks of 3 trolls leading all the way up here, right?
There were definitely the tracks of 3 trolls.
And not knowing the combat mechanics, I'm guessing that these would be really formidable opponents on a one-on-one.
Sort of.
Like, would Aemon? Do you think can we assume one Aemon could take one troll?
One Aemon could almost certainly take 1 troll. He'd probably get beat up in the process. Trolls are not skillful, but they are naturally tough. That's sort of the...
I'm just thinking of if it's a guaranteed death sentence when we, if we run into these things. I can tell you the only weapon I seem to have is a bow. I got a short bow and that's it.
I got a staff.
So, Aemon, you deploy me as you feel appropriate when we actually go in here.
Call him out in the open, and then someone can.
She was. I had gone in there intending to find her and to possibly spring her if possible, but she's currently sitting in the middle of a big open room right across a table from one of the. She's playing dice, if you can believe it, with one of the other trolls. So it wasn't exactly a good opportunity to.
You didn't find what was at the end of the. You said there was a passage that had, or that led to fresh air.
Yeah, I didn't go down there, but presumably it's another way out.
Because if that one is
Look, it's closer. Yeah.
if that one's closer, then presumably these guys passed the dwarven mining operation, right?
Yeah.
So what if I could because it sounds like it's quite the passage to reach them with this one. If we went to that other passage and I went outside and started belting out my favorite song, maybe that might draw 1 or 2 of them out, and then we could deal with that one out there. And I could play it up like you guys can lay in wait, and I could play it up like, oh, I'm a dwarf who's went out for a stroll and singing a song, and they don't think that we're necessarily in pursuit of the princess.
I think that's a good idea. The only other thing I'll throw out there is that they're definitely they're sleepers. These ones, they'll go to bed at some point. I wonder, we could probably try to get in there when they're less alert. It's another idea.
What do you guys say, Eamon? You're the one who's going to be scrapping with these things. If it comes to that, what do you think?
I think finding that other entrance is important too, because what if they try to if we run in there and demand her release, maybe they'll try to spirit her away.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to try to go around the mountain, the hill, and try to see if I can find the other entrance.
I mean, if you just
sense of how far it was and what geographical compass direction it was in, or
Yeah, so if you had to guess, it's kind of if the hill is a circle, it's probably 2, or the hill is a clock face, it's probably at 10 o'clock versus noon.
Okay.
Oh, so it's not that far.
It's probably not that far.
Okay.
I mean, the other way to go is you could just
like-
sneak back in
Yeah.
and take that passage if you thought it was safe, and that would take you directly to the entrance, of course, because you're going out of it. Whatever you think.
I could. I would have to go back through the latrine. which
Sure,
carries
sure.
Some risks.
Aye.
I think I have a way through there that won't disturb it.
So our 3 options are force, subterfuge by going in, or deception by drawing them out. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
So which of those 3? Loker's not necessarily crazy about being bait, but I mean, he's fairly confident that Aemond can either talk his way out, or Aemond and Sven can keep him safe. I mean, Dota looks pretty formidable with that spear as well. So
all Dota needs to do is have them leave and have a clear line to the exit, and I can get.
Yeah, and we do have that extra exit. So if we could draw the two of them out, we could have Dota sneak in there, get what's her name and the princess, spirit her out the other side, and then we just have to deal with these two.
Spirit her out this side, like I would come back out this way, and if we could draw the trolls out presumably the front entrance. I don't assume they go in through their
no, like
hole.
the reason I'm thinking is that from the way that was described of how far down, I think the sound, if the other entrance is closer, the sound of me would travel less distance. Then it would probably be more likely they'd hear my caterwauling, as opposed to just screaming into the cave here. Then it would look like it would be obvious that I was trying to draw them out, whereas if it's closer, it's just me being an idiot screaming in the middle of troll country. And
I think I agree. I was saying like I could sneak her out this way.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, let's find the other entrance, and maybe we do that. Maybe
sure.
Sven and Dota kind of work this angle and try to sneak her out, and then Walker and Aemon will go to the other place.
Yeah, and Aemon can be my backup in case we need. Because as soon as they see you, I imagine they're going to think that you're part of a rescue mission, whereas if they just see the dwarf, they're going to think I'm a dummy who wandered off. Who, to be honest, is not far from the truth.
Right. We could go in. I could go in here. We don't necessarily need to go find the entrance and like figure this out and then execute. We can, because we could just go as soon as you find the entrance. So I could sneak back in.
Yep.
And I could hang out. Because I'll be able to see them making their way to that second exit from the latrine room.
Yeah.
So I can hide in there until they, and if they come that way, then I just do what I need to do to stay hidden.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's do that.
Sounds good. Okay, so I'll
go to the other entrance.
Do we have difficulty finding the other entrance, Arlen?
I think you'll need Dota to guide you to the other entrance.
Okay.
Okay.
Because she's really the one who knows about it's once you get to it, you kind of realize, oh, we probably walked past this and just didn't realize that it was the entrance because it's kind of more overgrown and hidden and not as clearly worked.
Okay. Any sign of fresh troll prints outside that entrance?
Not going in or anything. There's troll prints. If you kind of think back, there's troll prints, a little ways off in the forest. Okay. So they probably walked by it too.
Okay.
So maybe they don't know about it. Maybe we should use this as a sneak.
I'm not crazy about singing in the shit pit is the only thing. Because then it's clear I'm trying to draw them out.
Oh, okay.
Do we think that, like, if we poke our head in there, does it look like the trolls could fit through this hole?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. So, yeah, so then if we can sort of judge how long it'll take for Sven and Dota to get back to the old thing, we'll wait for a little bit, and then as soon as we think enough time has passed, I'll try and help Aemon to make sure he's hidden, and then I will start belting out my favorite rendition of Ivar the Addled.
Yeah, so Aemon, you could definitely be fully hidden. I don't think you'll be able to see what's going on from fully hidden. Like if you peek out, then odds are good that they'll see you. But if you could even just stand behind a tree. They're fairly thick here, so
okay.
And you'll be able to hear Lokar belting out his song. Dada and
change the song when they come out.
I will, yeah. Well, you'll hear me probably stop playing.
Sven's not particularly sneaky. What's his role?
I thought okay. Well, you can back up if Dota's going by herself. Then you can back up.
Okay.
So similar to the way I did it for Dota, and you would kind of know this, I'm not going to have you roll any stealth thing until there's a chance for you to be actually discovered. So if you want to stay like back in the corridor while Dota actually does the going in.
Right. You could stay like in the latrine room. It won't be pleasant, but
beautiful.
And then once it's all clear, once they've gone out, I could
well, it'll hide my scent, I guess.
You thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Indeed.
But remember, the only thing that I will warn everybody about is I saw 2.
Yeah.
Unless
It's okay.
3 come out to I'll watch, but unless 3 come out to find out what's going on, they might be smart enough to leave 1 behind. So Sven,
Yep.
you and I might have to be ready to be quick.
Let's we'll try here. So what happens?
So where are Sven and Dada going to try to be when the thing goes up? Like, are you in the shit room?
We're in the latrine, and I'm going to be waiting by the
listening for the
just listen and watch to see and try to count how many go by.
Yeah,
Ben's looking for a place that I can hide. That'll give me some kind of benefit because he's not particularly good at hiding, so he's going to look for
one place in this room.
First comes the troll that you saw playing dice, and you can see you're sort of peeking one eye out, and you can see as he goes past. It's definitely a little smaller than the big one on the throne. Starts coming out. Then another one comes, not the big one on the throne, not anything on its head, not anything like that. Then another one.
Mm-hmm.
Then a third one. And finally, kind of grumbling along, he's got almost like the kind of ape-like build of the king trolls. This the king grumbling along and saying something in trollish about interrupting his nap. Comes the king, and Lokar, what do you think happens when the first one comes out, and what happens when 4 more trolls come out of the entrance?
Each time my song goes up by a slight octave, so as I'm singing, la la la, and then Ivar. So I'll kind of stumble back, and I was like, "Oh, hello, my friends. I didn't expect to see you there." So, Eamon, you've heard me stop singing.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll kind of stumble back. Forgive me, did my singing disturb you? Or perhaps you wanted to hear more?
So Eamon's going to get everything ready, but I mean, if they're going to just be
and I'll kind of twang my little whatever the fuck instrument it is a couple times too. Hey, perhaps something... Have you heard the one of Ivar the Addled?
We already heard Ivar the Addled.
So perhaps a change in song then. Tell me, have you heard it sung in... I don't know anything in Trollish. Perhaps something in Futhark? Or the Elven language? I don't know any songs in Elvish. I hope they don't request that.
So the big troll, the Cobble Ring, he's sort of... the other ones are just sort of standing there staring at you. He kind of looks at them like, did you bring this one with you somehow? Or...
And now, Arlen, did we see these guys go by? Did they pass us on their way?
Yeah, Dada saw all of them go by. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have... and you probably heard the music stop for a moment because you're definitely close enough to have heard that.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is have Lokar and Aemon do their thing, and then we'll kind of estimate how much time that took, and that's how much time Dada and Sven will have to... So
when we see him, when we see the big one come out too, or when they all sort of direct their attention to him, I think Lokar will say, "Oh, look at your hat there, sir. Are you a king? Am I in the presence of trollish royalty? Where did I stumble into? Forgive me. And I hear and I brought no gifts for you. Or wait, perhaps I do. Oh, and I'll kind of start fumbling around. I'm waiting to see how they react. If I've still got their attention, I'm gonna keep fucking around until they start trying to do something to me, or...
Yeah.
So,
sorry.
Yeah, the big one.
So before we get into it, what time are we supposed to close? I'm already getting...
like 20 more minutes, hopefully less.
Hopefully less.
Is that too much?
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, okay.
Okay.
Well, Eamon's not going to take any hostile action. If Lokar can play this off and bluff, that's our best course, especially with 4 trolls. If they start getting hostile, Eamon will intervene. That's the idea.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're not hostile. The big one is kind of sounds growly, but you have a sense that that's how he always sounds. He doesn't have it in, and he says, "You stand in the presence of Cobblering, king of the trolls and the goblins."
Cobblering, I'm so honored to meet you. Your name has rung across these hills. Oh, how surprised I find myself to find it in your court. Surely this must be your queen or prince? Can I tell, like, our genders of or sexes?
Yeah, you can tell that these are all male.
They're all male. Oh, so these must be your princes then, great king. It's a pleasure to meet
Sort of
you all.
laughs. He claps one in the back and says, "Nah, only this one. These 3 louts, they brought me my princess."
Oh, you brought yourself a princess as well, too. That's quite an occasion. You know, if your princess only came in, it's only good form to have a song sang about such a thing. Wouldn't you agree?
You did interrupt my nap, dwarf.
True, but what better way to wake up from a nap than the melodious sounds of a song, particularly one written in honor of such a king and his future queen, no?
He sort of thinks about it for a second, and he says,
Can I ask you, King, did they recommend to you that you should have that? A king as honorable as you and as grand as you, surely you deserve such a thing.
I says, that's, yes, I do.
Indeed, truly. So, there's no greater way to have a song such as this than to have it express the insight of the grandeur that only a king can offer. So tell me, Grand King, what is it you see in your princess?
Why don't you come see her yourself, and that will be enough to inspire
King.
you to song.
I'll try and stop him. Like if that's where the scene's going, but I'm gonna try and stop him. Like, no, King. The important thing is not how we mere mortals see her. You see her as a king does, the king of all trolls and goblins, no less. Truly.
So he's. We'll for the interest of time, we'll say he's eventually going to get to the point where he insists that he sends his son back to go get the princess.
Okay.
But you're able to argue with him for a little while about it. Dada and Sven will have plenty of time.
Eamon's like checking his watch, like, what the fuck? I thought we were fighting these things.
Well, I mean, if he's gonna go back and get the princess, that's when Eamon's gonna jump out, I guess.
Okay.
We don't want that to happen. But hopefully that's enough time that...
Let's see how far up to that point that Sven and Dota can get.
Mm-hmm.
Or
so
actually, Eamon will probably go for the king, and then maybe they'll get distracted enough. And then he'll say something like, everyone just run, I got this. But that's what's going on in his mind.
It's like, this was not the plan.
Yeah. Let's go.
So what do Dota and Sven, how do they fare with the princess?
So I assume Dota is leading the way because she knows the way and she's the sneaky one. Dota, are you trying to like completely sneak up on the princess, or are you gonna let her know that you're there somehow? Or
I think once they go, I'll motion to Sven to follow me. We'll go past the latrine into the main room. I'll stay on the edge of the room for a second and just kind of look in to see if she's still where she was before, and if I can because I also I'm still watching around just in case there's one more hiding somewhere, and I try to get her attention with like a snap of my finger or something.
Yeah, so she kind of looks over and she does let out a little bit of a gasp. You realize that if you had been seen the first time, she would have definitely notified the other one.
Right. So I'll motion to her to be quiet.
And she she quiets down. She clearly realizes what is going on and what fate awaits her if this does not go off successfully.
Right. I'll try to like I'll motion around the room and like try to act like a troll. That looked more like an ape. That's fine. And like and ask like a shrug of my shoulders, like, are there any more? I don't want to.
So she
like...
kind of looks at you, funny. She's got sort of like like, what are you doing? And then she just stands up and walks over and whispers to you in Vrock, what are you? You're here to rescue me, aren't you?
Yes, we're here to get you out. I was just, are there any more? Is that all the trolls?
Any given Tuesday for this princess. Love it.
They all went outside.
Okay, then come with me quietly. Come with me. This is Sven.
Sven waves.
I'm Dota. We're gonna bring you back to your dad.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
what are you gonna do about the latrine with her? Because she does not really want to go. She. This is sort of the time crunch element, like convincing her to get through the latrine, or if you're gonna do something else that takes less time.
Right. How big is she?
She's pretty small. You're pretty small, but Sven.
I'm gonna tell her. Oh, Sven's a big dude. Okay.
Sven, the Stormland.
I got an idea. But look, I know this is a profoundly unpleasant smell, but this is the only way out. So we're either going through here or we're gonna go meet up with our 5 big friends again.
And your future husband.
And your future husband. So here's what we're gonna do. You are gonna plug your nose as tight as you can, and you're gonna take a deep breath now before we go in there. You're gonna hold it all in. Sven here is gonna carry you, and we're gonna go through that room as quickly as we can so we can get the fresh air and you can breathe again. How does that sound?
She kind of looks towards she can smell too that there's fresh air out that way, and
surely she can hear the
trolls for a second and realizes that that's where the trolls just went out.
Yeah, they're not going that way.
She holds her nose, says, all right.
Stormy will protect us. Let's go.
All right. Sven, you good with this?
Yes, let's go.
Okay. I'll lead them out.
All right.
They're coming.
So
let's go.
You carry Sola out, or at least through the latrine. You probably let her walk the rest of the way because it's just cabin floor. You get out the other exit. I think when Aemond pops from around the tree, sword out, shield up, cobble ring, shouts, "My arms! Bring me my arms!" and then turns around and runs into the entrance. And you, of course, Aemond, realize he is a complete coward.
Yeah.
He's not Troll King because he's the toughest.
What about his idiot son and the lackeys?
His idiot son and the other ones, they sort of look at each other for a second, and one of them
can I
makes
scream something
like a
out?
boxing motion for a second.
In that pregnant pause, can I scream something out?
Sure.
I scream out, "Flee! Flee!"
Yeah. So one of them sort of makes like a boxing motion for a second. His buddy taps him on the shoulder and says in Trollish something that you don't understand, but you gather that it's, "Let's get out of here. We don't have our swords." So they run in.
All right. So Eamon says, "Stay in your hole for a while, if you know it's good for you."
Yeah.
So Dada and Sven, you guys are at the exit with the girl. You hear from inside this horrific scream of rage from.
Time to go.
Fall back to the dwarven mining camp.
Yeah.
You guys start booking it. You
Yeah.
head out into the forest, and then suddenly we're back in the tavern. And Lokir has just taken a pause. He's probably sipping on his ale or something.
I think I nod at Dota, Sven, and Aemond in the crowd.
Of course, because now that we know what they look like, we obviously recognize that they are in the crowd. Somebody pipes up, maybe the child who first asked, "And what then?" How did you make it out?
Then,
And
my
look-
child, it's a story for another day.
Of course. What else can we say?
Maybe the energy of it all makes a few little moves with his staff, showing like, I did this, and I gave him one of those.
I wasn't in that story at all. What the fuck? Walker!
Where was I?
What about the time when I drove off the bison troll? Well, I don't...
I battled in the shit room with at least 3 of them.
You granted me full editorial control over your stories, Finn, so...
Another drink.
That was awesome.
Yes, Arlen, I love this is a great intro to this world and game. So hopefully you can run it again sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After all the other queues of games we have.
Well, this is, what we didn't get. I would definitely like to see the combat system in this one to see how it plays. I know we're crunched for time here, and I know it's tricky, but yeah, this was tons of fucking fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was good.
I had
the genre. I mean, we got a good taste of the genre for sure.
Yeah. I like the very much like the kind of almost claustrophobic feel of being in the wilderness. Like, it felt very visceral, and the sense of danger. You did. I mean, that was also in your delivery, Arlen. You just good.
Yeah, no, we could have gone many different ways.
Yeah.
Well, and I had an idea. If we had more time, I would have had Eamon fight the King Troll and then have Eamon pipe up from the crowd. That's not how it happened. Have Lokar explain how you guys did the secret.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, combat would take a little longer with as tough the Troll is.
Right.
But definitely, we will next time we play some trivia.
Hey, we could pick it up from there with the same group and
Yeah. Well, and the way that Arlen had pitched it as well too was as a that it has a very kind of like fairy tale kind of quality to the world, and that totally felt like that. Having the fun, wacky troll who was ashamed of eating his companion.
Right. And the princess that was just like, oh, cool.
The princess of like, you're here to rescue me, right?
We could go through more of this, but we're supposed to be rescued.
Yeah.
Aren't you a little bit tall for a
right?
rescue?
Yeah, right. A little short for a stormtrooper.
That's a great world. Like, it's very evocative. You did a great job. Like Andrew said, you did a great job of presenting it, Arlen. So thanks very much for running it.
sorry, I gotta shout out.
My absolute
No problem,
pleasure.
Carl. Have a good weekend.
Yeah. See you, Carl.
Carl.
See you guys. Thanks a lot, Arlen.
Yeah.
Cool.
I gotta get dinner going here too, but thank you, very much.
So let's just quickly then plow through our outro then. So for those listening at home, thank you so much for joining us for this special one-shot of Trudvang Chronicles run by our very own Arlen Walker. So Trudvang is actually, the Trudvang Chronicles one is a custom RPG that was created by Riotminds in 2017-ish. And you can still get it from them as well, too, but they currently have a Kickstarter, if you're listening to this live or contemporaneous, to have a 5th edition compatible kind of version.
Which actually ended a couple days ago.
Oh, did it end a couple days ago? Well, there you go.
Clarity and transparency.
Hopefully in stores.
I mean, you can also do, like, most of those Kickstarters, you can do late backer before they actually ship.
That's true.
I don't know if that's the case for this one, but... In any event, it's, so you can, if 5th edition is more of your jam, I mean, the world is very, very interesting, and it has a great, it's a great kind of, Grimm's fairy tales kind of quality to it, which is complete with the darkness that kind of came with that. If this is kind of it seems like something you might be interested in exploring, you can get physical and PDF copies from Riotminds, and then of course there's the 5th edition version coming out fairly soon. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the game, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section of the video, and we will endeavor to reply in a timely fashion. In addition, you can reach me on Twitter at Dungeon Musings. You can reach Arlen on Twitter at Cows from Powys. It's Cows, C-O-W-S, from F-R-O-M, Powys, P-O-W-Y-S. Is that right, Arlen?
That is correct.
Yeah. And I'll include that in the link in the description. So if you have any questions about the game for Arlen as well, too, you can certainly reach him that way. We can also find Arlen on our the Dungeon Musings Discord server, a link to which you can find in the description of this video. So you can, if you want to chat about Trudvang, I'm certainly going to be doing a debrief about Trudvang on there as well. And then I guess the last thing we'll transition. Oh, if you enjoyed the session, we're not sure it's going to be an ongoing thing necessarily, but for the next time we play, be sure to click on subscribe and the bell icon so you know when we go live again. I neglected to put this in the schedule, but I will remember to do that next time. We always post the schedule for the upcoming session or upcoming week on Sunday nights on the community tab of the Dungeon Musings YouTube channel, as well as on Twitter and as well as on the Dungeon Musings Discord server. Last but not least, I want to thank Arlen for taking the time to prep and run this game for it. The game is very complicated. The world is very complicated. So this is not something of just like opening up a book and running something like that requires very little preparation. So, and Arlen put together all the things in Roll20 for us as well. So Arlen, thank you very, very much for putting all that work in and running the game for us.
Oh, of course. It was the adventure itself was actually pre-written and all that. And I think you actually probably could. It'd be harder to do, but it's the closest you could get with Trudvang. Running Take It by Trolls is about as close as you could get to open up the book and just run something. Building the characters is an endeavor because they are complicated and you have to remember what you spent points on, and the points cost differently based on the traits and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, that was, I at some point kind of gave up counting and just said, I think this looks about right for this character.
Yes.
We're not playing tournament play. But Kevin normally says thank you to the players. So since I was running, thank you to the players, Sean and Carl and Kevin and Andrew. It was great to play some Trudvang with you guys.
Absolutely. That was awesome.
I've been really interested in this game for a long time, so I'm really happy to get a chance to play it. I did both. I'm going to have the 5th edition and the original, so I'll be able to compare and play along. So good.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you very much.
So then, last thing, for those listening at home, once again, thank you so much for joining us for this expedition into Trudvang. I hope that if you're listening to this at the time of recording, we're still in the middle of the COVID crisis right now, so we hope that this finds you healthy, safe, and weathering the current crisis as well as can be expected. And until we see you again,